The two stepped on the white fish transformed from the god-slaying blade, but when they just about to catch up, the inscription on the stone tablet suddenly glowed, and then a body was drilled out of the stone tablet text. A blazing beast, like a giant crane with 3 heads, opened its mouth to bite the two. The strength of this 3-headed giant crane was comparable to that of the thunder beast that attacked the Qingming mountain gate. Huang Fufeng did not dare to underestimate it. He quickly transformed the white fish back to the blade and slashed toward the crane. However, he forgot that Bai Churan, who had stood on it, suddenly had no foothold, and fell straight into the rolling waves of the Broken Soul River. In the water, countless aquatic wild beasts looked forward to the human flesh falling from the sky. But Bai Churan turned over and patted the surface of the water. A giant palm formed from his chi hit the river, immediately caused multiple layers of water splashes on the surface of the Broken Soul River. Countless beasts were killed in the explosion. Bai Churan himself used the palm force and the recoil of the river to pull it up again, and finally, he adjusted his direction and fell on the giant stone monument. After Bai Churan landed on the stele, the 3-headed flaming crane that had been fighting with Huang Fufeng immediately turned his body and rushed in the direction of Bai Churan, but Huang Fufeng also moved instantly, stopping in front of it. The man and the beast fought again, and the aftershock diffused everywhere. "I leave the bird to you," Bai Churan shouted at Huang Fufeng, then stretched his hand to buckle the stele. The palm of his hand was like the strongest mountaineering pick, as he firmly grasped the inside of the stele. Then he climbed down step by step like this. After reached the place the giant crane appeared, he took out the record stone in the storage bag and quickly recorded the images of the array from all angles, and then took out a blank spirit stone to intercept the trace of energy in the formation. On the other side, Huang Fufeng gave his fullest effort, and the heavenly demon phantom appeared once again behind him. The 3-headed and 6-armed demon raised 2 of his arms, and the 2 swords came out together. At once, the giant 3-headed flaming crane was torn into pieces. "Ha, just a mere bird." Before Huang Fufeng's laughter finishing, the flaming corpse pieces of the beast retracted immediately, like were gathered by an invisible force, to form the giant flaming crane again. It ignored Huang Fufeng but rushing in the direction of Bai Churan. "Come on, you're the great elder of Heavenly Demon Sect, don't tell me you can't beat a beast summoned by a formation," Bai Churan said without looking back. Huang Fufeng had to stiffen with a smiley face, raised the blade, and chased. He had been battling with the giant crane for a long time, killing it several times in the meantime. He was exhausted and panting, but every time the crane was defeated, the sparks would quickly recondense again. Even if Huang Fufeng shattered the crane's body into pieces, it was useless. "All right." Just when Huang Fufeng felt that his consumption was a little overwhelming, Bai Churan's lazy voice came and said in time, "I'm done, take it apart." "I've been waiting for these words." Huang Fu withdrew a distance back, retracted the blade and sheathed back, and immediately released a slash. The heavenly demon blade that slays gods and Buddha. The phantom roared, and his 6 arms waved the sword in a frenzy. The unmatched sword beam formed a large net covering the world. The crane, the formation inscribed on the stone tablets, and the nearby riverbank hundreds of miles away, all were cut into scattered pieces by the blade of Huang Fufeng. The stone tablet shattered, and the formation above also dissipated, and the body of the giant flaming crane disappeared this time. Huang Fufeng and Bai Churan landed in the ruins of stone fragments. "Still let those light spots run." Huang Fu's face looks a little ugly. "Sword Patriarch, what is that?" "It's not clear, but I guess it might be some kind of visible signal." Bai Churan lowered his head and thought for a moment, saying, "In short, let's go back first. Those blue light spots will inevitably cause some kind of change in 9 provinces." The blue light spot speed was extremely fast, and in a blink of an eye, it arrived at the 9 provinces from the depths of the wilderness. After entering the western soil, they scattered and traveled to various places in 9 provinces. Because the light of these light spots was extremely weak, ordinary people could hardly notice it. All the blue light spots came to their respective scheduled locations and fell to the ground. Among them, 70% of the blue light spot sank into the soil layer but caused no abnormality in the local area. The remaining 30% released a subtle blue light appears in the local strata, and then it quickly dimmed down again. However, there was a light spot. After sinking into the soil at the designated location, it successfully caused the aberration. After the blue light bloomed, the local land suddenly cracked, and in the rumbling sound, a majestic ancient city slowly rose from the ground. The first to notice the sudden appearance of the ancient city was the villagers who lived nearby, and the news spreaded as they rushed to the market. The news spread quickly, so ordinary martial arts master, who wanted to seek immortality, were the first ones who came to the ancient city. Dispute ensued. After people met at the gate of the ancient city, they quickly fought out because of the struggle for interests. After a chaotic battle on one side, all parties threw down more or fewer bodies and had to leave the gate of the ancient city. There was a stalemate. Then came the local national army who received the news, and some cultivators of the nearby sect. After the emergence of these high-end military forces, the martial arts people were replaced. It became the confrontation between the national guardians and the sects. But in order to avoid the movement of the more powerful sect, even the direct intervention of the Righteous Alliance or the Evil Alliance, after some urgent consultations, both sides reached an agreement. Each party would send several cultivators to explore the ancient city together, and the achievements were divided in proportion. Several foundation-building national guardians and several foundation-building disciples from various sects, under the leadership of 2 golden core cultivators, were ready to explore this ancient city that suddenly appeared in this area and is obviously an extraordinary cultivation site. But as if knowing that someone was about to enter, when the team was just formed, the gate of the ancient city opened on its own, exposing the dark space inside the gate. What happened? A golden core cultivator couldn't help but asked himself a question. He used a technique to enhance his eyesight to see what was in the door, but the darkness inside the ancient city seemed to be some kind of substance that could block his gaze. No one was able to answer his question. The golden core cultivator withdrew his gaze, paused, and then looked at the other golden core and tentatively suggested, "Then we, being." At this moment, a heavy bell sounded suddenly in the ancient city. The sound waves visible to the naked eye penetrated the darkness from the center of the ancient city, transmitted out, and spread to all directions. After hearing the sound, the voice of the golden core cultivator who was talking came to an abrupt halt. Thousands of troops, martial art masters, and cultivators nearby all froze in place. Being. A moment later, the second bell sound came, and the people who had been stiff in place moved one after another, but their eyes had lost their spirit, and their movements were slow but uniform, just like a puppet controlled by invisible silk threads. I no longer have my own thinking. Kill. The golden core cultivator who was talking just now suddenly uttered a word. Kill the Green Emperor and recreate the sacred dynasty. Kill the Green Emperor and recreate the sacred dynasty. As if it were a chain reaction, as the words of this golden core cultivator fell, the slogan was slowly recited in other people's mouths. Kill the Green Emperor and recreate the sacred dynasty. Soon, these people from different forces and different realms of strength all slowly moved up. They stood in a row in a shaky way, and walked into the ancient city from the ancient city gate, slowly disappeared into the darkness behind the gate. After the figure of the last person submerged in the darkness, the gate of the ancient city slowly closed again. Then, somehow, there was a very thick fog, and the whole ancient city was submerged in this thick fog. It slowly disappeared into the mist. Half a day later, the dense fog dissipated, but there was no trace of the ancient city, as if its appearance was just a dream. "Hello, sect leader." As soon as Yu Qianlian walked into the workshop of Skyforging Castle, many disciples stopped and saluted him, but other disciples still focused on their work and controlled the fire, dedicate to forge the semi-finished product in the furnace. Skyforging Castle had a rule: when the elders came to the workshop, if the disciples were working, then they didn't have to salute. The sect leader was included. Focus on your work and don't be influenced by foreign objects, Yu Qianlian said with a steady face. Look at the colleagues around you who didn't greet me. This Yu Qianlian doesn't care whether you say hello or not. In the workshop, compared with the courtesy, the quality of the magic weapon being formed is even more important. Sect leader, you're worthy of being the great master of the refining path, He has extraordinary temperament. That is, I heard people say that someone saw the sect leader drunk and took off his clothes and ran along the riverbank. Now it seems to be a rumor. How could the sect leader do this kind of thing? When Yu Chenlian passed by, there were several disciples in Diantianwu whispering with admiration. Routinely walking around the workshop, Yu Chenlian walked out of the workshop and was preparing to return to his study room to deal with official business, but a disciple came to him in a hurry and reported to him. Sect leader, something went wrong. The monarch of the Dongling Kingdom begged for help. Yesterday an ancient city appeared in the northwestern territory of the Dongling Kingdom. The monarch sent several guardians and thousands of troops to investigate. All of these people were missing. The ancient city is gone. Oh! Yu Chenlian's expression narrowed, and then he pulled the disciple aside and asked him. Clarify clearly, all the guardians and soldiers are missing? Yes. This disciple reported. Not only the guardians and troops of the Dongling Kingdom but also the cultivators sent by several local sects, as well as all civilians. As long as they were on the scene at that time, all disappeared along with the ancient city. Yu Chenlian lowered his head for a moment and then said, Go to Elder Liu and ask him to bring a group of disciples with a strong detective ability to the place where the incident occurred. Besides, send a letter to Righteous Alliance, and report this to them. Yes. Originally, Skyforging Castle was unwilling to interfere with this kind of thing. The 9 provinces were vast, and there were many ruins left by the immortal and demon in various eras. Many people were buried on the way to explore these remains. However, Dongling Kingdom could be regarded as a country that was protected by Skyforging Castle. Among guardians OD this kingdom, there were also several disciples from Skyforging Castle. So when the king personally asked for help, Yu Chenlian couldn't ignore it. Therefore, while reporting to the Righteous Alliance, Yu Chenlian also sent people to investigate. As a sect specialized in refining but not so outstanding in other respects, this was the wisest choice. But for an unknown reason, in Yu Chenlian's heart, there was always an ominous feeling lingering. After returning to 9 provinces, Bai Churan and Huangfu Feng chose to separate to act. This was not the time to care about the dispute between righteous and evil, so he divided the images recorded on the stone tablets and the inscriptions, as well as the energy stored in the blank spirit stone so that Huangfu Feng would take one back to the Evil Alliance to study. Bai Churan himself ran all the way to the Mystery Academy, the sect with the most technical ability among the 5 major gates of the Righteous Alliance. The headquarters of Mystery Academy located in Liang Province. It's different from the other sect's headquarters, which was the higher the better. The headquarters of Mystery Academy was built in a plain, surrounded by mountains and complex and dense formation protection, fully showed the lonely and awkward character of the tech geeks. After presenting the jade pendant representing Qingming's sword sect to the guarding disciple, Bai Churan was taken to the reception room by him and then waited for the disciple to report. A moment later, the disciple came back and respectfully returned Bai Churan's jade pendant to him, and then said, Senior, sorry, the dean said he had no time to see you. No time? Bai Churan blinked. As I remembered, he has mastered the spell of making incarnation. If his main body is not free, I can just meet one of his avatars. The dean said that all his avatars are doing very important research work. Then who did you meet? This disciple's face was embarrassed by struggle and hesitation. After tangling for a moment, he looked around and whispered the truth to Bai Churan. Well, Senior, the dean is actually reluctant to see you. He said that every time you come to Mystery Academy, there is no good thing happens. Really? That's all right. Bai Churan took out the shadow stone that recorded the influence of the stele and threw it, and said loudly, Since Qiu Yuxuan, the dean of Mystery Academy does not want to see me, our little sect, who has no technical background, can only rely on ourselves to study this image that records the energy and formation of Land Immortal. I wonder if the Jade Tower and Saint Buddha sect would be interested. As he spoke, he turned around, left the reception room, and walked outside the door of Mystery Academy. After 2 steps, a panic shout came from Mystery Academy. Sword Patriarch, please wait. The rumbling shock came, and a large group of people ran over from the inside of Mystery Academy towards Bai Churan. They were wearing the same clothes and their faces were exactly the same, a handsome young man wearing a single piece of golden glasses. This group of guys ran to Baichuran, surrounded him, and some even shamelessly hugged Baichuran's thigh, shouting at him, "Sword Patriarch, please give me a glance." Qiu Yuxuan. Baichuran found the main body among these many incarnations at a glance and said to him, "Don't you have no time to see me?" "Who says that? It's an honor that Sword Patriarch came to visit, how can I not see?" Qiu Yuxuan looked at the informed disciple with a straight face. "Are you slandering me behind my back?" The disciple panicked and quickly waved his hand. "Sir, not me, I don't dare to. Anyway, never mind these little things." Sword Patriarch, photo stone? Countless Qiu Yuxuan around Baichuran reached out to him at the same time, revealing the eyes of longing. "Please show me. Now you really look like a dog who sees a bone, forget it." Baichuran threw the photo stone and blank spirit stone together into Qiu Yuxuan's hands. "It's important. I'm not fooling around with you. The inscription on it has been translated by the fourth elder of our Qingming sword sect. Your Mystery Academy has the strongest technical ability. I hope you can find out the efficacy and running situation of the formation, and what is the energy to maintain the operation of the formation in this blank spirit stone. After figuring it out, I hope you can inform me." "Of course I will." Qiu Yuxuan took two things carefully, and then the surrounding avatars dispersed at once and went back to the Mystery Academy. "I will summon the elders and disciples to start studying these two things. Then I leave it to you." Baichuran nodded to Qiu Yuxuan. Although people have no temperament, as the head of Mystery Academy, his research ability and creative ability were almost unrivaled in 9 provinces. "I will go back to Qingming Sword Sect first to see if anything strange has happened in 9 provinces and 10 places in the past 2 days. If you have found any results, you can send someone to notify me." In the headquarters of the Heavenly Demon Sect, Huangfu Feng also returned to the Heavenly Demon Sect's gate with the copied photostone and the sample of the energy. His speed was slightly slower than that of Baichuran, but it was extremely fast. When Baichuran delivered things to Mystery Academy and returned to Qingming Sword Sect, he also rushed back to the headquarters of the Heavenly Demon Sect. As the great elder and former sect leader, Huangfu Feng was more famous than Baichuran in his sect. He directly ordered people to call Ji Lingyun, took out the 2 items, and asked, "Lingyun, which sect in our evil alliance is the best at studying formation and energy? Which sect is the best at studying formation and energy?" Ji Lingyun froze for a moment, saying, "If you talk about people, there are still a few, but there is no sect in the evil alliance that specializes in these things. Everyone is studying the magic skills and formations of their sect individually. Did you figure it out yourself too? Besides, the evil alliance is said to be an alliance, but everyone is also guarding themselves. Who will want to study the formation for the other sects? That's it." Huangfu Feng froze for a moment, then thought, "Lingyun, I think we should reflect on why the evil side hasn't prevailed in the past 3,000 years. After Qingming Sword Patriarch got something, he went to Mystery Academy without hesitation." The two were silent for a moment, and Huangfu Feng returned to his senses and commanded, "Lingyun, you gather all the talents of this area in our sect, and then send people to the Kamasutra sect and Ghost Spirit sect, and tell Su Xiangxue and the Old Skeleton that it is an important matter about the future of demonic cultivators. Ask them to the staff who are good at researching this aspect to our Heavenly Demon Sect, so everyone can cooperate and study together." Qing Province, Shilling Kingdom. Elder Liu, along with several disciples of Skyforging Castle, appeared at the foot of a mountain. They were originally ordered by the sect leader Yu Qianlian to go to the Dongling Kingdom to investigate the sudden appearance and disappearance of the ancient city in the Dongling Kingdom, with a large number of people. But after they arrived, the king of Dongling Kingdom sent another message that the ancient city appeared again in the Shilling Kingdom. Dongling and Shilling were split from a country called Qingling. The two countries were in a state of war for a long time. However, the relationship between the two parties has improved recently. At present, the king of Shilling was the son-in-law of the king of Dongling. Of course, the relationship between countries was not so simple. The establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries did not mean that the monarch of Dongling has put down his vigilance against the monarch of Shilling. If the conditions were right, he would never mind pushing the army of his son-in-law to the trap. It's better to push his own soldiers to the trap. However, this ancient city incident has caused golden core cultivators missing. The situation was clearly beyond his control. The monarch of the Dongling kingdom was a cautious person, so he handed this matter to Skyforging Castle. At the same time, the monarch of the Shilling kingdom was also reminded, so when the ancient city appeared again in the territory of the Shilling kingdom, the Shilling kingdom monarch sent an army to control the situation and did not let the nearby martial arts master and small cultivation sects approach the place, and also notified Skyforging Castle through his father-in-law. After receiving the news, Elder Liu sent a disciple to bring the data and news back to Skyforging Castle and then took the remaining disciples to the place where the ancient city was. Elder, the ancient city is there. A disciple pointed to the mountainside, and Elder Liu looked up. Sure enough, he could see a huge city halfway up the mountain, which was very abrupt compared with the surrounding forest. Take out the puppet and move on carefully, Elder Liu whispered. All disciples who are under the nascent soul stage stay in place to control the puppets. Those who are or above the nascent soul stage will follow me. Once you find that the situation is wrong, you will retreat immediately. Hearing his orders, the disciples of Skyforging Castle who were present took out many humanoid puppets from their pockets. These puppets were built by them but were designed by Mystery Academy. These things were expensive, but their fighting power was very good. After learning, cultivators who manipulate them can also exert the strength beyond their cultivation level. This group of puppets brought by Elder Liu was the backbone of Skyforging Castle, and the fighting power of each puppet was comparable to a cultivator at the peak of the nascent soul stage. Cultivators of this level, even in some in the middle sect, were elders or the sect leader. All the disciples of Skyforging Castle in the golden core stage stayed in place, and some used divided mind, manipulating these puppets, keeping up with the steps of brothers and elders in the same door. Elder Liu took disciples who were or above the nascent soul stage, holding a variety of powerful magic weapons, flew carefully, approaching the ancient city from the midair to the mountainside. When they're above the ancient city, Elder Liu and a group of disciples looked down. The interior of the ancient city was as dark as the description. Even they used illuminate spells, it could not be seen clearly. Elder Liu pondered for a moment, raised the tool in his hand which looked like a lantern, and poured the powerful energy of the deity transformation stage into it. The flame inside the lantern suddenly turned into a sea of fire, spreading for several miles, and from that sea, several fire dragons flew out. Under the control of Elder Liu, they circled and roared and crashed into the ancient city. Fire Dragon's head crashed into the darkness that enveloped the ancient city, and then, just like a ball sank into a mud swamp, disappeared without any trace. It won't work. Elder Liu put away the flames and further heightened his vigilance. He led his disciples to the gate of the ancient city slowly, and then, just like knowing their arrival, the gate of the ancient city slowly opened toward the inside automatically. Charge your energy. Be alert. Elder Liu took a deep breath and shouted to the disciples. At the same time, all the disciples carried out the forging mentality technique to increase the resistance of the mental attack. Sure enough, at the next moment, from inside the ancient city, a bell sounded. When the bell's sound came into the ears of the disciples, it turned into a terrible buzz, as if there were hundreds of thousands of people who were chanting to you incessantly in your ears. The language, as if there are hundreds of heavy hammers, was bombarding your spirit and will one after another, but fortunately, Elder Liu let these disciples exercise their forging mentality technique first to resist, otherwise their minds would be directly destroyed by this mental attack. But even in this case, some disciples who still lacked in mind training and cultivation were shocked by this attack. The ancient city seemed to be aware that these comers could not be taken by the bell alone, so it changed the attack type. The darkness in the city surged for a moment like a hard object, then suddenly from the darkness, a group of strange humanoid creatures came out. These humanoid creatures looked like were directly generated from darkness, and there were white lines on their bodies, forming strange runes. After walking out of the darkness of the ancient city and seeing Elder Liu and the disciples, these dark creatures' head, which was like a hollow mask, suddenly cracked a large crack with intertwined teeth, which should be their mouths. These dark creatures screamed at them, like a bell. These screams were also mixed with the mental attack, but it was much weaker than the bell. They screamed and moved towards the crowd. During the charge, black flames were spurted out behind their limbs and body, which gave the disciples a sense of threat. Elder Liu raised his hand and waved on the lantern, turned the flame into a wall of fire, swept the black creatures that rushed out. After the fire attack, dozens of black monsters fell on the spot. The black shell started to fall off on half of them, revealing the body below. Elders, those are the missing sergeants of Dongling Kingdom. Someone saw the clothes on several of the dead body and exclaimed suddenly. It's not time to pay attention to these things. Elder Liu looked at the remaining half of the black monsters who stood up from the ground. Although he just shot casually just now, after all, it was the flames released by a deity transformation stage cultivator, coupled with one of the highest magic weapons of the Skyforging Castle. Half of the black monsters were still surviving, and judging from this ability to resist, they were not weaker than golden core cultivators. Ready to fight. Elder Liu took a deep breath, but he still had no idea. A dozen common golden core cultivators were nothing to him, but Elder Liu can remember that there were thousands of people who disappeared with the ancient city. Among them there were also some Foundation establishment cultivators, and even 2 golden core cultivators. If ordinary people and soldiers, after being reconstructed by the ancient city, can have the strength of golden core cultivators, then what kind of strength reconstructed cultivators will have? Looking at half of the monsters that screamed, Elder Liu's heart was swaying, like the light of his lantern. The fierce battle has continued for a long time, and the nearby ground was full of dead bodies, and many puppets have been scrapped and destroyed. The disciples of Skyforging Castle were exhausted, their true chi was empty, their head was full of sweat. Even Elder Liu, who was at the deity transformation stage, felt a little overwhelmed. Even if these dark monsters have only the lowest golden core cultivator's combat power, they may not be as good as any golden core disciple, but no matter how weak, that was still golden core cultivator's combat power. Not to mention, the dark matter that attached to them still had a certain resistance to the true chi. After killed hundreds of monsters, the disciples of Skyforging Castle who were not good at fighting were finally approaching the edge of exhaustion. It seems that it is no longer possible to enter. Elder Liu looked around, seeing that the disciples of Skyforging Castle basically didn't have the ability to fight anymore, but in the dark, that strange monster still spawned all the time. He decided to retreat in his heart, thus he raised the lantern in his hand again, vigorously released the fire of the magic weapon, and a sea of fire was formed at the gate of the ancient city, blocking the path of the dark monsters. Go! Elder Liu shouted. The disciples of Skyforging Castle summoned their last surplus force, driving flying swords off the ground. The Golden Core disciples who supported from outside also manipulated these expensive puppets to run towards the sea of fire without hesitation. Some dark monsters rushed out of the sea of fire were pushed back by the puppets, and then a series of huge explosions sounded, and the whole mountain began to shake. The smoke spread, but Elder Liu knew that the ancient city was absolutely unharmed. He seized the opportunity to take the last group of disciples to the sky. Elder Liu himself stayed behind to cover them. Bang! However, at this time, bell sounds were suddenly heard in the ancient city, and mental attacks ambushed them. The disciples quickly used their technique to resist, but that made their pace slowed down. After the first bell, all the disciples were dizzy, but at this moment, the second bell suddenly came one after another, and then, the endless burst of bells, like the tide, struck everyone's spirit and completely delayed their footsteps. Elder Liu gritted his teeth, lifted the lantern in his hand, and flicked it outward, and then the lantern began to show cracks on the body and exploded. The flame inside the lamp spread to form a sky-covering fire lotus, which enveloped everyone, temporarily isolating the mental attack, but Elder Liu who exploded the magic weapon was implicated and spit out a big mouthful of blood. Elder! The disciples of Skyforging Castle exclaimed. I'm fine. Elder Liu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Run fast, this matter is not something we Skyforging Castle can handle alone, we must bring the information back to the Righteous Alliance. The disciples of Skyforging Castle obeyed his command and gathered together. Under the shelter of the fire lotus, they rose all the way. But at this moment, the smoke above the ancient city dissipated, the darkness inside surged, and several black sword beams burst out. These sword beams swiftly traversed and crossed, forming multiple black straight lines on the sky, which were woven into a dense pattern, trapping the fire lotus inside. This is a sword formation. The disciples of Skyforging Castle responded too late. More than a dozen dark monsters with more complex runes on their bodies, riding various black flying swords, rose into the sky and surrounded them. From the number, this should be the group of missing Foundation establishment cultivators. From the energy they released, they all had the ability of the nascent soul stage. These monsters roared while driving the flying sword to attack Fire Lotus. The disciples of Skyforging Castle hurried to fight back, but one side was full of momentum, and the other was exhausted. Soon, all the disciples of Skyforging Castle fell into decline. When those black sword beams pierced into the Fire Lotus and be burned, they immediately exploded, tearing the fire around and making the disciples of Skyforging Castle exposed. The buzzing bell sound immediately took advantage of this to enter, and some disciples who could not bear the mental attack and froze in place. Kill. They lowered their heads and murmured in a quicker and faster rhythm. Kill the Green Emperor and recreate the sacred dynasty. Wake up. Elder Liu shouted loudly, reaching for the disciples, but the dark monsters around him rushed up. He was forced to retreat, and he could only watch the disciples were brainwashed by the bell sound and fell into the boundless darkness of the ancient city. The bell's rhythm became faster, and the Fire Lotus was completely torn. Elder Liu felt bitter in his heart. Not to say that to protect these disciples, even he himself was about to be forced into a desperate situation. In this critical moment, there was suddenly a huge snow-white beam flew across the distance of 100 miles, breaking the sword formation that surrounded the disciples of Skyforging Castle. Elder Liu. A handsome middle-aged man dressed in a snow-white gown and carrying a long blade appeared. Are you all right? Senior brother Yu. Seeing this person, Elder Liu's eyes lit up. The person who came was the representative of the military force of Skyforging Castle, the older brother of the sect leader, Yu Qianren. Why are you here? Did the sect leader let you come? Ah, I was looking for materials for Qianlian. When I heard about this on the way back, I came to see it. Yu Qianren flew towards them. Come on, I will take you out. Several disciples were captured by the ancient city. Elder Liu said bitterly. There is nothing we can do for them right now, let's go back first. Yu Qianren turned his head, then in the next moment, his expression changed. Two monsters with more complicated runes surfaced from the darkness. Their heads had horns, their hands were controlling the magic weapon, and when they stopped in front of everyone, exuding a terrible atmosphere comparable to the deity transformation stage. Behind them, thousands of dark monsters who were equal to golden core cultivators appeared in the sky, forming a dark cloud, blocking the escape path of the disciples of Skyforging Castle. It seems that the owner of this city is not willing to let us leave. Yu Qianren held the back handle with his backhand and said in a deep voice. Elder Liu, I will open the way for you. In any case, you must pass the information about this ancient city to Qianlian. On the 7 Stars peak of Qingming Mountain, Bai Churan was researching the copied photo stone. Although the original photo stone and blank spirit stone have been delivered to the Mystery Academy, he also left a copy, used to see if there was any opportunity to inspire him to break through the foundation. While he was staring at the formation model of all angles on the photo stone, the voice of his disciple suddenly came from his ears. Master, not good. Tang Ruowei was riding the Kunling sword, flew from the main peak, and hurriedly landed, shouting to him. What's the fuss about? Bai Churan glanced at her lazily and said. Your chest has grown. I think it's a bit bigger. No, this is not the time to talk about that. Tang Ruowei shook his head and stuffed a letter into Bai Churan's hand. Look for yourself. This is what the elders let me bring to you. Bai Churan took it, opened the envelope, and checked the contents. On the stationery, such a sentence was written in black and white. The mysterious ancient city appeared in Qing province. All the disciples of Skyforging Castle who went to investigate mysteriously disappeared, including 1000 Forging Skyblade, Yu Qianren who went to the rescue. Only Elder Liu was back, but he's seriously wounded and fell into a coma. Qing Province, Skyforging Castle Headquarters. As a famous refining sect gate in 9 provinces, in order to facilitate the forging of powerful instruments, Skyforging Castle set up their headquarters on a boiling active volcano. After thousands of years of transformation, the people of Skyforging Castle exert their wisdom, taming and transforming this active volcano into a world furnace for refining. Despite those dense workshops and warehouses, the headquarters of Skyforging Castle did indeed look like a castle, except that the fluid around this castle was flowing volcanic lava. Huang Fu Feng came to Skyforging Castle with a heavy face. After entering from the mountain gate and showing his identification, he was taken to the sect master's room by the disciple of Skyforging Castle. In the room, many people have come before Huang Fu Feng. He looked up and found that apart from the sect leader Yu Chenlian, they were all the big shot of righteous cultivators. Elder Shu Shualin of Mystery Academy, Zhong Ruifei, the battalion commander of Black Armor Battalion of Heavenly Army, Elder Dan Qinglu of Jade Tower, Saint of Painter Li Pengfei, but he did not see anyone of his peers. That's because righteous cultivators had slower cultivating speed compared to demonic cultivators, so everyone from his generation was in closed-door cultivation to prepare for the heavenly tribulation. Yu Qiandao should be able to the heavenly tribulation stage soon. Huang Fufeng sighed in his heart and stepped into the room. Seeing the head of the evil alliance, people in the room had different expressions on their faces. Elder Shu of Mystery Academy shone his eyes, revealing a deep curiosity as if he wished to cut Huang Fu Feng into slices on the spot to research. Zhong Ruifei, the commander of the Heavenly Army, showed a fighting intent, and Elder Li of Jade Tower, who had the worst relationship with the Heavenly Demon sect, looked like he saw a human-shaped shit pile. Huang Fufeng ignored them, but went straight to Yu Chenlian and said to him, "Little Yu, I'm here. Big Yu. It doesn't matter, I know it all." Yu Chenlian was not very spirited, but said calmly, "Please take a seat. If Brother Huangfu is here, only the Qingming Sword Sect, Saint Buddha Gate, Hehuan Sect, and Ghost Spirit Sect are left. Relax, little Yu, the representative of Qingming Sword Sect should be Sword Patriarch." Huang Fufeng relieved Yu Chenlian. With that old man's ability, he will surely be able to save Big Yu. But Elder Shu of Mystery Academy couldn't help but say, if Sword Patriarch came, at his speed, should he have been here already? Are you guessing? On the side, Zhong Ruifei coughed, and Elder Li couldn't help stepping on him. "Old Li, why do you step on me? I'm telling the truth." The elder from Mystery Academy, who was not very good at communication, asked unconsciously, "Because I went to inform the rest." Someone answered his question from outside the door. Bai Churan pushed the door to walk in, followed by Su Xiangxue who was wearing a veil, and another figure wearing a black cloak which covered his face entered the room together with them. The representative of Saint Buddha sect this time was Wei Chen Master Monk. He was going to investigate the information on the way, so he didn't come this time. "After we have discussed here, just go and meet him." Bai Churan looked around the crowd, and then suddenly bowed towards Yu Chenlian. "Little Yu, I'm sorry." This time, he really scared the people around him who knew his identity. Yu Chenlian jumped directly from the chair and avoided Bai Churan's salute, asking, "Why did Sword Patriarch say this? This time I am going to bear the main responsibility for the disappearance of the disciples of Skyforging Castle, the disappearance of your elder brother Yu Chenren, and the serious injury of Elder Liu." Bai Churan straightened up, recounted to everyone present that he and Huang Fu Feng went to the wilderness to investigate the mysterious stele, and then said, "I also let Huang Fu Feng help me lead the way. If we don't activate the stele, this ancient city should not appear, so the main responsibility should be on me, and I will do my best to resolve this incident. Sword Patriarch is too fond of taking responsibility by himself." Yu Chenlian shook his head and said, "Now that the stone tablet is accumulating strength, it shows that it is activated sooner or later. Sword Patriarch just happened to meet it. The responsibility is not on you. But this Yu Chenlian still kindly asks Sword Patriarch to help me save my brother and other disciples. I will." Bai Churan stepped aside and stood with the other 3 representatives of Righteous Alliance, while Su Xiangxue and the man in the black robe came behind Huang Fufeng. The two people took a seat at the invitation of Yu Chenlian and began to discuss the matter. Let me talk about the beginning and the end of the ancient city incident. Yu Chenlian subconsciously held his chin, and then said, probably more than half a month ago, that is, a few days after Sword Patriarch and Huangfu brothers explored the wilderness, an ancient city shrouded in darkness suddenly appeared in a mountainous area in the northwest of Dongling Kingdom. This ancient city got the attention of local people and martial arts masters, and then the king of the Dongling Kingdom and several nearby sects also received the news. They separately sent their force to investigate. A total of 5,000 soldiers, 16 Foundation Establishment cultivators, 2 Golden Core cultivators explored the ancient city. We didn't know what happened at that time. We only knew that all of these people disappeared together with the ancient city. After that, the monarch of Dongling Kingdom asked me for help, and I notified Righteous Alliance. At the same time, Elder Liu and his disciples were sent to investigate, and then they received the news and went to the Shilling Kingdom. My brother Yu Qianren heard about it on the way back and followed them. Then they encountered the mysterious ancient city that appeared there. Only Elder Liu made it back with serious wounds. Senior Liu Chang? Elder Li from the Jade Tower in Xiancheng asked. His consciousness was hit hard, and when he came back he was seriously injured and unconscious. Yu Chenlian replied. But fortunately, we have the habit of carrying a photo stone with us for work. In his photo stone, we still saw some useful things. While talking, Yu Chenlian took out the photo stone and played the video recorded in the open space in the middle of the room. The content of the video began with Elder Liu leading a group of disciples to find the ancient city, and ended with the scene that the 2 long-horned dark monsters with thousands of gold core stage monsters rushed towards Skyforging Castle disciples. Everyone was silent. After a long time, Su Xiangxue sighed and took the initiative to say, everyone, it seems that we have come to put the differences aside, again. She looked around and asked. This time, Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance cooperate again. Do you have any opinions? What Su Xiangxue said sounds ironic, but it actually makes sense. Looking at the images recorded in the photo stone, this ancient city and the monsters it produced are not good things to deal with. As the 2 major organizations in Kyushu and Ten Lands, Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance are united. Although there are inevitably many ugly insides, when such things appear, it is their incumbent responsibility to stand up and protect the established order of Kyushu Ten Lands. After Su Xiangxue's words fell, the first response to her was the 2 colleagues of Evil Alliance. Huang Fufeng and the missing Yu Chendao were friends. Naturally, he would not sit idly by and respond immediately. Sect leader Su's words are reasonable. Ghostly old man, what do you say? The Ghost Spirit sect's representative, whom he called the ghostly old man, thought for a while, then replied in a hoarse voice. No comments. I support sect leader Su's decision. On the side of Righteous Alliance, Bai Churan, as the representative of Qingming Sword Sect, first responded, and then he looked around and asked. How about you 3? I have no opinion. Elder Shu of Mystery Academy immediately said. It would be better to say that if we can study this kind of unheard things that we haven't seen, our Mystery Academy will be very happy. Neither do I have an opinion. Commander Zhong Ruifei of the Heavenly Army replied. The duty of the Heavenly Army is to protect the human races of 9 provinces and 10 lands. The last one, Saint of Painter Li Pengfei, looked around and sighed. Damn, all the good things have been said by you, what else do I say? If our Jade Tower does not agree, we will not come here. Then there is no disagreement, just start to deal with this matter. Bai Churan suggested. Xiaoye, besides this photo stone, does Elder Liu have any information left? No. Yu Chenlian shook his head. Elder Liu was unconscious when he came back. In fact, he fell a few hundred meters outside the mountain gate. It happened that a disciple who was returning to the mountain saw him and brought him back. That's no way. Bai Churan bowed his head and said. Now, we know almost nothing about the ancient city, how it works, when and where it came from, how it appeared and disappeared, how it transformed people into that weird look. These are all of us, it's not clear, we need more information. Su Xiangxue, ghost old man, and Huang Fu Feng glanced at each other. Then Su Xiangxue said, "On the way, we have dispersed all the manpower that can be dispersed and used the intelligence network to query the intelligence as much as possible. As long as the ancient city appears again, we will be able to quickly locate it. We have also mobilized the intelligence network of our sect." Elder Li of Jade Tower and Zhong Ruifei of Heavenly Army also replied. Among the sects of two factions, Jade Tower and Kamasutra sect's intelligence network can be described as the best in the world. After all, the most well-informed in this world was always the merchants, and among the merchants, the most well-informed was the one who did prostitute business like Kamasutra sect. Especially all the disciples who had a charming technique. Normally after 1 or 2 glasses of wine, the guests would speak everything. With your intelligence network, there should be no problem. Bai Churan glanced at Su Xiangxue. Remember not to let anyone come close, and record the place where it appears. There may be rules to follow. I know. Su Xiangxue responded tacitly. At this moment, the representatives on both sides looked at them with subtle eyes, but when Bai Churan's attention was shifted from Su Xiangxue to them, the gang showed a tacit understanding, showing a gesture that said, "We didn't notice what just happened." Next, for the things I brought back with Huang Fu Feng's help, Elder Shu, did your dean have any results? Bai Churan turned to look at Elder Shu of Shen Fa Academy and asked. As soon as we received your things, the dean had gathered the elders and started to study them, but we still couldn't figure out the energy. Elder Shu shook his head. However, we have taken a glimpse of the formation. The dean led us to successfully simulate the formation using true qi, and reverse-engineered it. It is amazing that the formation seems to be 2 different rules are merged together. For our side, I handed it to Xiao Lingyun and asked her to find other evil sects who are good at tinkering with them, and study it together. After seeing Elder Shu finished, Huang Fu Feng also added. Coincidentally, we haven't made any progress in the study of the method of confrontation, but under the derivation of a direct disciple of the Devil sect, we successfully condensed energy that is similar to that energy's nature. What energy is that? Elder Shu asked curiously. Everyone else looked at Huang Fu Feng. If our disciple's derivation is correct, it is the immortal qi obtained after a demonic cultivator become an immortal, just like how the true qi in your body transformed into immortal qi after you ascended. Huang Fu Feng said in a deep voice. That energy was condensed by me with her instruction. Its nature is slightly different because of the exercise, but the basic nature is the same. So I think what Sword Patriarch said earlier about the so-called land immortal may not be nonsense or boastful. That may be a real immortal or an immortal-like existence who stayed on this realm. Hearing this sentence, not only Yu Qianlian, but all the faces on the scene were sinking. Although when Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance jointly joined forces, they could defeat even a real immortal. But, who knew in that ancient city, what exactly was the strength and quantity of land immortal? What is really scary is not a tough enemy, but an unknown enemy. Okay, don't think too much. At this time, Bai Churan, who was still the sanest, first encouraged everyone. He clapped. Since that ancient city didn't directly show up to kill us, it means that they are not as strong as us, or at least they haven't been sure they can beat us. Otherwise, they must directly crush and rule 9 provinces and 10 lands. Wouldn't it be better than let us do whatever we want? It made sense. Zhong Ruifei said in a deep voice. Furthermore, even if they have the strength to crush, do we just succumb to it? At least we must resist until the end, otherwise, it would be humiliating to say it. But to say so, we can't underestimate the enemy. Bai Churan added. After all, they come from our unknown times or regions, what abilities they have, what magical powers and formations they manipulate, we have absolutely no knowledge of these. So I suggest that you should not be in a hurry right now. It is better to be steady and do one step at a time. First, spread the intelligence networks out. Once we found something, we organized a team to investigate, and then, even if they can't come back, at least we must ensure that they can pass back enough information to research and analyze. Is that fine? Master, where are you going to take me? Seeing the surrounding scenery quickly past, Tang Ruowei asked Bai Churan, who was pulling her arm. After receiving the letter from the sect leader before, Baichuran ran down the hill somberly and came back a few days later. After that, he went to the main peak and discussed something with the sect leader and several elders, then looked for Tang Ruowei and, without saying a word, dragged her down the mountain. Looking at the direction he went, Baichuran's destination should be Qing province, which was adjacent to Jiyu province. Where are we going? Baichuran's footsteps did not stop, looking forward. Take you to study. Are you not interested in those miscellaneous studies now? So you want to take me to learn these things? Tang Ruowei asked. Aren't you urgent for these 2 days? It's really a matter of urgency, but this is also your chance. This time there are experts who are really good at these miscellaneous studies. Follow him to learn and help by the way. Baichuran replied. Arrived. His footsteps slowed down, and Tang Ruowei looked up and found that there was a tall and majestic mountain in front of him. At the top of the mountain was a huge inward pit, and lava erupted continuously from there, down the foothills, and the top of the mountain spouted. The billowing smoke covered the whole sky in the dark clouds. The danger was not only lava but also the smoke from the eruption of the volcano that could affect the breathing system of mortals. Ordinary people could not even survive a day in this environment. However, in front of this volcano, there was still an artificially spiraling mountain road. The stairs of the mountain road are made of some black metal, which could float on the lava without being melted. Baichuran took Tang Ruowei up the mountain road, walked up the mountain gate engraved with the word Sky Forging Castle, and past several flying bridges made of black metal, leading her to a hut which was built on a lava lake. Perhaps after receiving the notice in advance, an old man greeted him from the house. Baichuran pointed at the man and introduced Tang Ruowei. This is Elder Shu from Mystery Academy. He is proficient in various miscellaneous knowledge such as surveying and mapping, formation, astronomical phenomena, and earth veins. He is a research expert in this field. Then he turned his head and pointed at Tang Ruowei to introduce to Elder Shu. Elder Shu, this is my idiot student. Although she has neither strength nor body curves, there is still a little cleverness in her mind. You can use her as a free laborer during this day and take her with you whenever you have time. Hearing this, Tang Ruowei also reacted. She knew Baichuran was finding a professional instructor for her, so she was busy greeting the Elder Shu. I'm Tang Ruowei, hello Elder Shu. Good. Elder Shu looked at her and then said, I didn't expect Sword Patriarch to accept a disciple, but it also works. Sword Patriarch is kind to me at Mystery Academy. I also need manpower to study and analyze the operation rules of the ancient city here. You can be my assistant for the time being. If it's okay, I'll go back to work first. He looked like an anxious man, looking back frequently when he was talking with Baichuran and Tang Ruowei, as if there was a beautiful woman in his house. Perhaps for these technical geeks of Mystery Academy, the desire to satisfy curiosity may be even higher than that. Seeing him like this, Baichuran couldn't help but smile, and then said to Tang Ruowei, You will stay here first. This incident is not trivial. You are not allowed to run around. You have to listen to Elder Shu's arrangement. Do you understand? Yes, I do. Looking at his expression, Tang Ruowei, who knew that things are different, nodded honestly. This time she didn't talk back to Baichuran again. Then I will leave first. Baichuran said to Elder Shu. Sorry for disturbing your work, please continue. After leaving Tang Ruowei with Elder Shu, Baichuran ran non-stop to the territory of the Nanling Kingdom in Qing province. There was originally only one country in Qing province, named the Shangling Kingdom, but when Baichuran was more than 2,000 years old, it split up and formed the four kingdoms. There, Wei Chen Master Monk, the representative of Saint Buddha sect, was waiting for Baichuran there. After that day's discussion, the major sects have reached a consensus. They launched the intelligence network. They also sent people to notify Saint Buddha sect. On the way to come, Wei Chen Master Monk and others began to pay attention. As a result, they found a trace of the ancient city near the Nanling Kingdom, so he sent a message and stayed at the place where he discovered the trail, waiting for others to join. According to the message from Wei Chen Master Monk, Baichuran ran all the way to the place he found. It was a small mountain village near the river, and there was a certain distance from the nearby towns. Due to the beasts in the nearby forests, the villagers in Pingrili village did not like to move around. There was very little contact with the official government of Nanling State. The tax staff of the city basically only come here once a year when they collect taxes, so this time when the ancient city appeared, it was not possible to receive the news in the immediate vicinity. Baichuran came outside the village and found that the village was already uninhabited. Only the disciples of Saint Buddha sect walked back and forth. These disciples dressed in a monk's clothes, has a bare top, so they were quite recognizable. Wei Chen Master Monk was meditating near the entrance of the village. He sensed Baichuran's arrival, and got up and greeted him. Although Wei Chen has the title of a master monk, he did not look like a monk who spoke Zen at all. He had a flat head with only a layer of light hair, and his face was full of flesh. He looked very bad-tempered and had a wide body. The monk's clothes were stretched tight by his muscles. This master monk used to engrave the learned Buddhist scriptures and imitated Buddha idols on his body. A wrathful image of Nether King exposed from his arm. The ferocious expression of Master Chen Chan looked like a gangster who has been in criminal for many years. "Hello, Sword Patriarch." Coming to Baichuran, the monk raised his hand and performed a Buddhist salute to Baichuran with one hand. "Long time no see, Wei Chen." Baichuran smiled at him. "Skip these greetings, the situation is urgent. You don't have to stick to these ceremonies. What is the situation here?" "Yes." Wei Chen Master Monk nodded slightly to Baichuran, as if to salute his eldest brother. Hearing Baichuran's words, he took Baichuran to the village and said, "This is the way. On the way we came, we followed the Buddha's teaching and practiced along the way. We received your notice halfway. Then I heard that something strange happened here and there was a fog. I took the disciples and looked at it. On the way, I met a hunter and said that he saw a city appearing on the river here on the cliff. I came with my disciples and found that there was no one in the village here. Is the hunter who witnessed the ancient city still there?" Baichuran asked. "Of course, after we discovered that the village had become like this, we immediately asked him to stay." Wei Chen Master Monk replied. "He is in the village now, and I sent 2 disciples to protect him. It will take some time for the others to arrive. Take me to ask him," Baichuran said. "Also, although I have already asked him, since Sword Patriarch wants to ask." Wei Chen Master Monk led the way to the village. "This way please. I'm afraid that your face is too vicious, so scared that the hunter has nothing to say." Baichuran laughed. Wei Chen Master Monk touched his head, but he did not refute it, because it was indeed possible. Under his leading, Baichuran saw the hunter. After some inquiries, Baichuran understood the basic situation but was not able to ask more things out. That man was just an ordinary hunter. Both Baichuran and Wei Chen Master Monk have used mind awareness scan to perceive his true identity, and there was not much energy active in his body. According to the hunter, he had just caught a rabbit at the time, and when he went down the mountain, he accidentally saw fog in the direction of the village. After the fog had dispersed, a city appeared on the river. But with his eyesight, he couldn't see what happened in the village after the city appeared on the cliff. After that, he met the Wei Chen Zen master who came with his disciples, but this time, the city has gone along with the dense fog. Baichuran went to the river where the ancient city he was referring to once again wandered around. Near the river, he noticed that there was a tendency to disturb the energy of heaven and earth. Here, the energy should have been swirled by something. But many of the formation or spells could achieve this effect, so this time Baichuran still got nothing. Somewhat unwillingly returned to the village, Baichuran calmed down his mind. This time he was facing an enemy who was unheard of. To analyze their method, more clues were needed. After waiting for a while in the village, the rest of the alliance came here after receiving the news. Because the first ones were the nearest, the staff this time was also different from the last time. Except for Qingming Sword Sect, other sects' representative has changed. Baichuran and Wei Chen Master Monk went out to greet the village. After seeing the representative of Kamasutra sect, Wei Chen Master Monk's already vicious face turned into a wrathful appearance. Ouch! Seeing the anger on Wei Chen's face, the female elder of Kamasutra sect, who dressed in a thin black gauze, also had a giggling face. "Why does Wei Chen Master Monk look so angry? Am I not welcome here? Mu Huan, you still dare to talk?" Wei Chen Master Monk said angrily. "You were there last time when we Saint Buddha sect was clearing the pornography. Why is it always you every time we clear the pornography?" The elder called Mu Huan from the Kamasutra sect, and Wei Chen Master Monk who was from Saint Buddha sect had quite a complicated relationship. Wei Chen Master Monk was a cultivator of the Saint Buddha sect who practiced the Nether King path. As a result, he was a morally indignant man, so he has been active in the front line of the anti-pornography campaign of the Righteous Alliance for a long time. In 1,000 years, he has shut down countless dens of Kamasutra sect. Mu Huan was a senior of Su Xiangxue, the best hooker of Kamasutra sect, and has been actively walking on the verge of violating the agreement for a long time. In the early years, when the leader of the Kamasutra sect was not Su Xiangxue, the two had fought many times and became rivals for hundreds of years. After a series of agreements and Su Xiangxue came to power to reform, the activities of the Kamasutra sect were not allowed to cause casualty anymore. Mu Huan moved from the frontal battlefield to the technical work, helping Su Xiangxue to start managing the Kamasutra sect's business. However, this elder Mu Huan has a hobby. That was when carrying out private technical activities, she liked to open the den near the temples of Saint Buddha sect, and specialized in corrupting young Buddhist monks. Therefore, the hostile relationship between her and Wei Chen Master Monk has not yet improved. So when they meet now, Mu Huan still started provocatively against Wei Chen in a light-hearted manner. "Ouch, your anger is really strong." Hearing Wei Chen Master Monk's words, Mu Huan stuck out her tongue and licked the corner of her mouth. According to Buddhism rules, wrath is a crime. "Master Wei Chen, you can't be angry. Fuck." Wei Chen Master Monk rolled up his sleeves, exposing the Nether King on his arm. This Wei Chen worships the Nether King, who specializes in cleaning up the evil being like you. "Come on, go and beat me." "All right." Seeing that the two had a tendency to fight on the spot, Bai Churan shouted. "It's important to do the right thing first. Wei Chen, control your anger. Mu Huan, say less about an unrelated matter." Hearing Bai Churan's words, Wei Chen Master Monk tried to control his emotions. He closed his mouth and walked to meditate and begin to chant the Buddhist sutra. Mu Huan glanced at Bai Churan with a little fear, closing her mouth and walking slightly away from him. In the Kamasutra sect, only Su Xiangxue was not afraid of Bai Churan. For others, especially Mu Huan, the old remnants of the former dynasty, still remembered how Qingming Sword Patriarch killed their sect leader. After Bai Churan stopped the two, the embarrassing atmosphere lasted for a few seconds, and no one spoke. Then, an elder from the Nether Ghost sect took the lead and asked, "Everyone, let's not waste time, let's talk about the information found by each sect in the past few days." Seeing everyone nodded, he said slowly in a low voice. "After the meeting that day, our sect searched the area near the headquarters. As a result, an unmanned village was found in the area north of the Honeycomb Land, and there was also a vortex of aura in the village. It looks..." He raised his finger to the river beside the village. "Like this." The Honeycomb Land was where the headquarters of the Nether Ghost sect located, one of the 10 lands. Its geography was special. The ground in this area was a layer of rock that had thousands of holes, covered with countless downwards and bottomless pits, and below these pits and rock formations, there was one underground hollow, an area comparable to a province. Because it's underground, with dense yin energy and no light, not only there were many rare herbs and treasures which couldn't be found on the ground, but there were also many dangerous spiritual creatures such as wandering souls, zombies, and skeletons. That's why the Nether Ghost sect moved here. But these were not the focus of everyone's attention at present. Honeycomb Land was tens of thousands of miles away from Qing Province. The trace of the ancient city also appeared in Honeycomb Land, which meant that its range of movement was not limited to the Qing Province. Everyone looked at each other and thought about it. Afterward, Mu Huan of Kamasutra sect and the elder of Jade Tower also explained that the two sects' intelligence networks found the suspected appearance of the ancient city in Yun Province and Liang Province respectively. Both sects have received reports about places that suddenly became uninhabited. How exactly does it move? At this moment, Everyone fell into deep thinking. Skyforging Castle, inside the hut occupied by Mystery Academy. Tang Ruowei, who had been busy all day, walked out of the hut with the others, stretched her back out, and took a deep breath. Her nasal cavity was full of the sulfur smell, but compared with the busy day, it's also a good relaxation. After a long day of intense mental work, the girl feels that her brain was dizzy and swollen. After rubbing her temples, the girl was going back to her room for rest. Although she only helped to make various calculations and deductions under the command of Elder Shu, Mystery Academy's technique still made Tang Ruowei feel quite rewarded. But when she had just turned around and walked towards the room arranged by Skyforging Castle, behind her came the voice of a girl. "Hello, junior sister." Tang Ruowei turned her head in surprise. A girl who was as beautiful as she appeared in front of her. That girl was wearing a long red dress with brocades, her eyes were picturesque, her black hair was like a waterfall, and she was slender. The girl's figure was just right, one more point was fat, and one less point was thin. Her face was not as charming as Su Xiangxue, but it's beautiful. Looking at the girl who greeted herself suddenly, Tang Ruowei hesitated. "Senior sister, you are. I am a disciple of Heavenly Demon Sect, and I came to help like you. My name is Li Jinyao." The girl gently introduced herself to Tang Ruowei. I watched it for a while. This time it seemed like only the two of us were girls, so I thought to come and say hello to you after a day of work and get to know you. "Ah, hello." Perhaps it was Huangfu Feng who gave her harmless impression, so Tang Ruowei didn't react very much after hearing that the girl was a Heavenly Demon Sect's disciple. "Hello Sister Li, I am Tang Ruowei of Qingming Sword Sect. I am 24 years old, currently the foundation establishment stage." After walking on the cultivation path, the sense of time became blurry. At this time, Tang Ruowei barely remembered how old she was this year. If she hadn't joined the Qingming Sword Sect, in the Shangshuan Kingdom, such an age meant that she was already a mother of 2 children. 24-year-old, but already in the foundation establishment stage? Li Jinyao somehow felt a little more intimacy, she smiled. "Your advancement is very close to me. It seems that junior sister Tang is not an ordinary disciple. Who is your master?" "Yeah, it's quite unusual." Tang Ruowei's eyes flickered. "In Qingming Sword Sect?" "No, it should be said that in the entire Righteous Alliance, I may be the only foundation establishment stage cultivator whose master is still in the Qi refining stage." "Qi refining stage?" Li Jinyao was stunned, surprised, and said, "Junior sister Tang, do you mean your master is the Sword Patriarch of Qingming Sword Sect?" Tang Ruowei thought about it, then nodded and said, "The elders of Heavenly Demon Sect, as well as the big demon I met before, did call him by that name. Do you also know him?" "Oh, in our evil alliance, only some small sects don't know about Sword Patriarch. After all, this is a matter of survival. When a disciple joins an evil sect, the first cultural class they take is about Sword Patriarch. You can say that our disciples generally don't dare to do anything to righteous cultivators in the Qi refining stage." Li Jinyao laughed, "Not to mention, since my master accepted me as her student, she has always wanted me to target Qingming Sword Patriarch, hoping that I could surpass him one day. It seems that senior sister Li is talented." Tang Ruowei curiously said, "Then do you think you might surpass my master in the future?" "It depends on what aspect. Leaving aside the cultivation level that I have surpassed him for a long time, if it is housework like cooking and laundry, I am very confident that I'm better than him." Li Jinyao laughed. "Cooking and laundry?" Tang Ruowei was speechless. "But in terms of strength, mentality, etc., I think maybe I can't beat him." Li Jinyao smiled and said, "After all, he has been stuck for more than 3,000 years in the Qi refining stage yet can still live to the present without giving up the hope of a breakthrough. At least I think I can't have this level of perseverance. I once have decided that if I don't break through in 2 or 3 years, I will give up cultivation and go back to my hometown to marry someone." "Marry someone?" Tang Ruowei froze for a moment and then reacted. Li Jinyao said she would go back to her hometown to marry someone if she doesn't have a breakthrough in 2 or 3 years, but she is still here. Doesn't it mean that she has walked all the way to the present and has never been stuck in a level for more than 3 years? Moreover, as Tang Ruowei sensed, the true qi in this sister's body was calm and strong. It didn't seem to be a quick advance exercise usually found in demonic cultivation. It's clear that every step was cultivated to a satisfactory level before breaking through. Like my master, this is another monster. She secretly panicked. However, Li Jinyao did not react, and she nodded with a smile when she heard Tang Ruowei muttering to herself. Yes, marrying someone, don't you think it's better to find a good husband and spend the whole life with him as a family? After all, no one knows whether or not a demonic cultivator can ascend to immortality. By the way, when it comes to this, Sister Ruowei, when will you have a chance? Can you introduce me to Sword Patriarch? What? Tang Ruowei said. I think you don't need my help, but what do you do when you see him? Look at whether he is suitable for me. Li Jinyao blinked and replied without thinking. My ideal husband must fulfill some conditions. First, he must be stronger than me, so in the future, he can protect me and our family. Second, his cultivation can't exceed me too much, otherwise, he will ascend in the future, leaving me alone. Thinking about it, Sword Patriarch has matched both conditions. I just want to see if it's suitable or not. No, this. Tang Ruowei didn't know how to answer. Li Jinyao was obviously the future leader of the Heavenly Demon sect, but she thought of marrying every day. She remembered Su Xiangxue, who was the leader of the Kamasutra sect but was still a virgin. Are all demonic cultivators that strange? The girl forgot to look at her efforts to practice the bodybuilding exercises in order to change her life, which was also very strange in the eyes of other disciples of Qingming Sword Sect. After thinking about it, Tang Ruowei said, not to mention this, Sister Li, if your master knows your plan, will she definitely not agree? Of course she won't agree, but it doesn't matter. At most 200 years, the master is not my opponent. Li Jinyao smiled like a flower. It will be a big deal to bully the teacher and destroy the ancestors. Anyway, that's our motto. Tang Ruowei saw that Li Jinyao was determined to meet, and thought about Bai Churan's usual annoying look, so she replied. Well, when the master is free, I will introduce you to my sister. But let me say it first. My master's mouth is particularly annoying. If you can't stand it, don't fight with him at that time. You can't beat him. After sorting out the information in the mountain village of Nanling Kingdom, Bai Churan and others dispersed. Some disciples of Saint Buddha sect stayed in place to guard the mountain village. The rest of the disciples followed Wei Chen to Skyforging Castle. Other representatives also went back to their sect. As for Bai Churan, he walked around at random to see if he could gather any information. However, 9 provinces and 10 lands were extremely vast. Bai Churan walked around several times yet failed to see the ancient city appear. However, after a period of observation and summarization, Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance also came up with some rules of the ancient city's movement. First, according to the traces of the ancient city, combined with the time when Bai Churan and Huang Fufeng witnessed the activation of the stele, the interval between the disappearance and appearance of the ancient city was generally about 3 days. Second, every time the ancient city appeared and disappeared, it's always accompanied by a thick fog. Third, the place where the ancient city disappeared would leave an aura vortex that would not dissipate for a long time. Fourth, the scope of action of the ancient city was not limited to Qing province, as there were traces of it in all places in 9 provinces and 10 lands. However, with Qing province as the center, the farther the distance, the less the frequency of actions. Fifth, the ancient city abducted people by a bell sound. If the number of people nearby reached a certain number, the ancient city would be activated and tried to abduct these people. If the bell sound was not enough to capture the spirit of the target, the ancient city will dispatch a wonderful dark monster to take the target by force attack. The dark monsters seem to have been transformed with the body of the captives inside the ancient city, but at present, they neither knew the specific details nor encountered a living sample. Everything was speculated from Elder Liu's video. At present, the people of Mystery Academy have begun to try to see if they can predict the next location of the ancient city according to these rules, and Bai Churan, who has failed to search, has returned to the forging dock. He could help speculate, and in case the people of Mystery Academy really predicted the next location, Bai Churan's speed and strength were the highest among all the people present, thus it's most appropriate to let him test the city first. However, when Bai Churan returned to Skyforging Castle, looking for the disciples of Mystery Academy came out, he was found by his apprentice Tang Ruowei shortly after, along with a young girl he didn't know. After looking at the pretty little girl, and at the disciples who had some guilty conscience, Bai Churan wondered. Hey, Ruowei, I found that after the two of us haven't seen each other for a while, when we meet again, you can always bring a beautiful little girl with you. You really were born into the wrong gender. What nonsense are you saying? Tang Ruowei's eyes widened. She understood what her master was referring to. After pretending to carelessly support her chest, she gritted her teeth and said, "This is senior sister Li Jinyao from Heavenly Demon Sect. She told me she wanted to see you." Huh? Li Jinyao? Hearing the name, Bai Churan gave her a surprised look. Are you the one with the heavenly demon physique that the Evil Alliance recently tried their best to hide? Are you the Qingming Sword Patriarch? Li Jinyao did not deny it but looked up and down Bai Churan carefully. Well, your look isn't bad. Master. At this time, Tang Ruowei, who heard the conversation between the two, asked, "What is heavenly demon physique?" That is a legendary physique recorded in the divine narrative classics of the evil sects. For demonic cultivators, it's even considered superior to the heavenly level spiritual root. It's equivalent to the full attribute of the heavenly level spiritual root. No matter what kind of demonic technique, the one with heavenly demon physique could learn it quickly without any side effect. This physique has only appeared in the classics, and it is rumored to disappear after the end of the last era. Bai Churan looked at Li Jinyao and said, "And she is the only heavenly demon physique that was born in the last 3,000 years. It was understandable that the Evil Alliance want to hide her from the Righteous Alliance." Then how do you know? Tang Ruowei spit her tooth out. "Su Xiangxue told me." Bai Churan replied. "I drank with her, boasted a bit, and she happily told me this." Betrayer. At this moment, even if she was very fond of Su Xiangxue, Tang Ruowei couldn't help shouting in her heart. "I have long heard that sect leader Su has a great relationship with Sword Patriarch. I didn't expect her to even tell you this kind of news. It seems that she is basically undefended against you in her heart." Li Jinyao said with a smile. "That's because she knows I won't hurt her." Bai Churan looked up and down at Li Jinyao. "However, since you are a heavenly demon physique, you should have learned her phantom charm, right? How can I not see the effect? Because I changed a bit, so I was able to turn it off at will," Li Jinyao said, suddenly blinking at Bai Churan with one eye. "Look." At this moment, her body suddenly released an endless charm, and Tang Ruowei's unguarded face turned red when she brushed her face, but Bai Churan was still expressionless. "Well, that's what it is." After watching for 2 seconds, he commented, "You changed the method I changed, and the charm effect can be closed, but the power of the charm is reduced by a few points. Moreover, this trick can be pulled off completely because of your physique. This is a change that only suits you." Li Jinyao froze for a moment, then smiled bitterly. "You are indeed Sword Patriarch. I had to think for 2 years before I succeeded. Even my master took a long time to figure out, but you see through it with a glance. I just live longer than Ji Lingyun." Bai Churan said lightly, "I do not understand." After Li Jinyao put away the charm, Tang Ruowei, who finally recovered, shook her head and asked, "Is this terrifying charm effect also a side effect?" "You can't put it away, of course, it is a side effect." Bai Churan glanced at his disciples. "You think, if Su Xiangxue finds a person with low charm resistance in the future, then just look at her every day, this man will die in 2 years, do you say this is a negative effect?" Tang Ruowei blushed and nodded. "Okay, I have watched it, so go back to work." Bai Churan waved his hand. "Now hurry up and try to predict the movement trajectory of the ancient city, I have to think of a method. Speaking of this, in fact, I have an idea." Li Jinyao suddenly said. Any ideas, though, now is the time to think out of the box." Bai Churan sat down at the table and said, "Please sit down, Miss Li Jinyao. Ruowei, don't just stand there." "Thank you." Li Jinyao and Tang Ruowei sat down next to each other, and then Li Jinyao continued. I used to help Elder Shu from Mystery Academy. Although he was cautious, I still saw some clues. He speculated that it seemed that the ancient city relied on the power of the Earth's vein to move so quickly and operated. It is also some kind of escape technique that we don't know, which can be perfectly integrated into the Earth's vein. Well, there's nothing wrong with this idea. Bai Churan nodded and said, to support such a big ancient city moving back and forth, it really depends on the power of the Earth's veins. But I don't think so. Some places in the ancient city are not on the nodes of the Earth. Li Jinyao continued. So I was wondering if the ancient city used other powers. After all, in this world, the Earth's vein is not the only natural power that can be drawn from. For example, the power of the celestial phenomenon, which is the opposite to the Earth's veins. What do you think? The power of the celestial phenomenon? Bai Churan lowered his head slightly and thought for a moment, then took a map of 9 provinces and 10 lands from his arms and unfolded it on the table. On the map, some places were marked with swirling symbols, and those were the places where the ancient city once appeared. Without the sky chart, Bai Churan used his chi as a pen to draw a star chart directly above the map from his own memory. Li Jinyao also walked up, and the two quickly compared the position of the vortex on the map and the chi astrological map in mid-air. No, it's not astrology. Li Jinyao was disappointed. It seems I guessed wrong. It's okay, this is not something you can guess by chance once or twice. Bai Churan comforted. At least you have opened up ideas for us. Your ideas are correct. The technology of the ancient city may far exceed our conventional imagination. Okay. At this time, Tang Ruowei, who had been staring at the map and did not speak, suddenly asked, Master, do you think there may be some special meaning in these places? Huh. Bai Churan froze for a moment, saying, what do you mean? In other words, didn't you just say? This ancient city has technology that far exceeds us, so I thought, maybe it is not moving because it doesn't have enough energy and must be moved by the power of heaven and earth, but because, for some other purpose, it must move to these locations. Tang Ruowei said. For example, a formation. Before she finished, Bai Churan and Li Jinyao have begun to use the chi to outline various possible formation models on the map. The two moved as fast as lightning, but because of their experience and knowledge, they retain an extraordinary tacit understanding. Although they worked at the same time, not only they did not disrupt the other's pace, but also complemented each other's emissions in their thoughts. Gradually, a formation appeared on the map, covering the entire 9 provinces and 10 lands. This is. Li Jinyao's face dimmed. Although the specific effect is not clear, looking at the composition of these runes and formations, this may be a way to awaken something. Bai Churan murmured. Wait a little while for me, I'm going to check. After he finished speaking, he stood up and ran out at a speed that Li Jinyao and Tang Ruowei couldn't see clearly. He came to the place where the ancient city appeared the first time, which was located in the Dongling Kingdom. Like other places, after the ancient city disappeared, there was also a vortex of aura that did not disperse. Bai Churan walked around the vortex, suddenly pulled an iron sword from the storage bag, and split the air. This time he completely focused the sword beam, and the white light on the blade almost condensed into substance. As the blade of the iron sword turned into iron sand, he also opened a black crack in the void. Through the cracks, Bai Churan successfully saw the internal scene. Numerous spiritual energy was pouring in from the surroundings, and the mist on the other side of the space was gathered into a fog visible to the naked eye. Someone has quietly opened another space in this place. It's like a hole cut out in a flat piece of paper, and the surrounding spiritual energy was continuously flowing through the small crack into this space, formed a vortex of aura that would not dissipate. So it turns out to be this. Looking at this space, Bai Churan said to himself, I get it, everything is connected. He returned to the room. Li Jinyao and Tang Ruowei were still waiting here. When he saw him coming back thoughtfully, Tang Ruowei asked quickly, How is it? Master. Bai Churan recovered, reached out and rubbed Tang Ruowei's head, saying, Thanks to you, now I know the goal of that ancient city. What exactly is going on? Li Jinyaro curiously said. It's just my guess, but it's very likely the truth. Bai Churan said. I went to the place where the ancient city first appeared to verify. The aura vortex, there is actually a small space that was opened up. At the center of the vortex, there are some space cracks that are hard to see with the naked eye. Through these fissures, one after another, they continue to converge into another space. I think that should be the same in other places. These things are the eyes of a formation. Li Jinyaro glanced at the map. That makes sense. Using small spaces to make eyes of a formation, they may be able to create a formation that covers 9 provinces and 10 lands. Yes, and the purpose of this formation is to wake up something. Bai Churan continued. I remember when Huang Fu Feng and I saw that the stele was activated in the wilderness, the blue light emitted by it was densely scattered. At that time, I thought those signals were all going to this ancient city, but if each light spot represents a city similar to this ancient city, then endless dark monsters of the Golden Core stage. Li Jinyaro then replied. I still don't know the upper limit of the number of transformations, but even if the number of monsters that an ancient city can carry is only as much as shown in the image, then their force far exceeds the number of cultivators in the League combined by the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance. This is still not counting stronger monsters that have been transformed from cultivators. Bai Churan sighed. Call everyone, we should discuss the follow-up plan. The representative who united in Skyforging Castle was once again called together. Bai Churan told his guest to all the sects. After listening to his explanations and deductions, the representatives began to contact their sect, and Elder Shu of the Mystery Academy hurriedly took the people to research the formation map created by Bai Churan and Li Jinyao to deduce where the ancient city would appear next time. With the formation map, the progress of Mystery Academy suddenly improved a lot. In less than a day, Elder Shu marked the most likely place where the ancient city would appear next. Now it depends on whether the ancient city can verify our conjecture, Elder Shu said to the representatives present. But this is only the first step. We still don't know whether this ancient city needs time to prepare for its appearance and disappearance. This directly relates to the success of our operations. Because according to their guesses, the ancient city is autonomous. It is powered by energy and then moved between spaces. At present, the space technology of our cultivation world is far from mature. Once it breaks away into other spaces, it is difficult for us to capture its traces. We need to explore its other data. Leave it to me this time, Bai Churan said. Since I want to force it to run away, then I will go out and see what tricks it has. In the Liang province area, there was an uninhabited wilderness with hundreds of miles of prescriptions, reed bushes which were as high as a person, swamps and rivers with dangerous creatures like snakes, crocodiles, and even dragonic serpents. No normal human would come to this place. But here was the location of the next jump of the ancient city, according to the speculation of Xian Fa Academy. If the ancient city really appeared in a place where there was no inhabitant in 100 miles, it would prove by Churan's speculation that the purpose of this ancient city's continuous movement was not to capture human but to form a formation. Bai Churan came here one day earlier, hiding in the designated place, waiting for the arrival of the ancient city, while other people were waiting tens of miles away to avoid being affected by the bell sound. Finding a dry place in a thick reed bush, Bai Churan sat down and quietly condensed the qi in his body, trying to form the true qi to kill the boring time. The sun went up and down, and the day passed quickly. Bai Churan's attempt was still unsuccessful. A thick fog silently appeared and enveloped him. Sighing helplessly, he continued to suppress the impulse to break through, then stood up and walked towards the dense fog. The fog in front of him seemed to be dreamy and unpredictable. Deep inside it, he saw the ancient city appeared silently in the dense fog. It seems we guessed right. Looking up at the closed gate tower in front of him, Bai Churan thought for a moment and raised his hand. Unmatched qi began to converge on his palms, prepare to strike. Seeming to be able to sense the danger, the gates of the ancient city suddenly opened inward at a rapid speed, and then, the bell sounded in a rapid rhythm. Being, being, being. The bell sound went into his ears, and the entrapped mental attack strangely and trickily attacked Bai Churan's consciousness, but Baichuran condensed his consciousness and formed an indestructible fortress. The mental attack hit his mental defense and dispelled without the slightest effect. He probably wanted to measure the intensity of these mental attacks. Having preparations in advance, even a nascent soul stage cultivator would not be affected by it, but if he was in a fierce battle, this bell sound would indeed become very annoying harassment even for the deity transformation stage. Baichuran stepped forward, his hands were still full of energy, and then took a palm shot in the direction of the ancient city gate. The unmatched chi turned into a huge golden palm imprint and flew towards the gate of the city. The darkness in the gate surging. A group of dark monsters came out and used their own body as a shield to block the front of the palm print. But there was no effect. The palm rolled over like a bulldozer, crushing the darkness in the city gate like a broken bamboo. The invisible shock wave spread, the reeds were pushed down in all directions, the ground swelled like a wave, and the darkness at the gate also dispersed for a moment, allowing Baichuran to peek inside. Inside the city gate, there was a stone avenue. On both sides of the avenue are 2 rows of dragon-headed lion-shaped beasts. In the eyes of the beasts are several runes that Baichuran has never seen before. The darkness around it seemed to be surging like a tide, covering the scene in the city again, but Baichuran had written down the shape of the few runes he saw. In the next moment, a roar was heard in the darkness. 10 monsters with long horns above their heads rode on weird black flying swords, flew up from the ancient city, and attacked Baichuran. These monsters should be the disciples of Skyforging Castle who were missing, but at the moment, under the control of some kind of mysterious will, they launched strange moves that did not belong to Skyforging Castle, some had never even been seen in the cultivation word. The swords flew in disorder, and the sword beams they emitted were turned into black straight lines, interlaced in the air, reflecting dazzling light and making attacks. Dozens of sword beams drilled from all directions, even into the soil, and attacked Baichuran at the same time. But Baichuran simply raised his hands, moved so fast that it turned into a phantom image, and blocked these sword beams without exception. These black sword beams with terrible power were flicked away by Baichuran's hands, some fell to the ground, and cut a dozen cracks into the ground, and some flew into the distance, cut some nearby hills and explode them. But Baichuran, who received these attacks, noticed something strange. The attack is at the level of peak deity transformation stage. I remember that many of these disciples were in the nascent soul stage, and there were even several peaks in the nascent soul stage. Baichuran thought about it. According to the information obtained from the video data, after the reconstruction of the city, Golden Core disciples were transformed into dark monsters comparable to the deity transformation stage. According to this speculation, the nascent soul disciples should be 1 level stronger, became the physique integration stage. But now it seemed that this terrible infection really had its limits. So what about Yu Qianren? Baichuran made up his mind, his figure moved instantly, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of one of the black monsters, stretched his hand to grab his neck, and then raised his hand to his head. The turbulent palm power was completely controlled by Baichuran's amazing self-control ability, which stripped all the black energy covering the monster, but did not hurt the individuals inside. The dark monster's shell looks like mud blown away by the hurricane, exposing the possessed individual. After the dark shell was stripped, the exposed person was indeed a disciple in the uniform of Skyforging Castle, but he was still unconscious even though Baichuran did not hurt him. Baichuran reached out and touched his nostril, found that he didn't breathe, and then dived into his spiritual platform and purple palace. Both places were empty, and he saw neither this cultivator's deity soul nor true chi. His soul is gone. Baichuran threw the Skyforging Castle disciples in his hand to the ground. Dozens of surrounding monsters surrounded it again, and the sword beams changed again, puncturing Baichuran's body at a more tricky angle. Seeing this, Baichuran also slowly raised his palm. The souls of these possessed people have dissipated, which was really not good news for them, but it also meant that at this moment, Baichuran could attack without any care. The unimaginable outburst of chi turned into a mad tide. The black sword light blasted out was directly blown back by this energy storm, and the surrounding dark monsters were instantly stirred into fragments. During the storm, Baichuran began to charge towards the ancient city. Sensing a terrible threat, The ancient city began to fight back with all its strength. The bells in the city slammed faster, and countless dark monsters of the Golden Core stage, Nascent Soul stage, and even the Deity Transformation stage also appeared in the darkness, but none of those could stop Baichuran. He ran all the way, looking down from the sky, just like a ship was going up against the black current, and opened a wide road in the middle of the tide, all the way into the darkness of the ancient city. Crossing the city gate, his chi blasted away the dark energy around him. Baichuran walked all the way down the stone avenue, and then he stopped at the second city gate in the ancient city. Above the gate tower, a beam extended, and a man was hung upside down on the gate tower, his face covered with blood. Baichuran recognized the identity of this man, Yu Qianren. The person who was hanged upside down on the gate of the ancient city was really the elder brother of Skyforging Castle's sect leader, Yu Qianren. Baichuran sensed with his soul awareness and found that Yu Qianren's spiritual platform and purple palace were still there, and his deity soul and seven-color true chi of the physique integration stage were also remaining. He pondered for a moment, then took out an iron sword from the storage bag, poured his chi into the sword, and then inserted the iron sword on the stone road in front of the city gate. Then, he jumped over and took Yu Qiandao off the gate of the city, carrying him away. When Baichuran left, the darkness around him immediately gathered back. They seemed to consciously want to exclude the foreign object that Baichuran left behind. On his sword, a terrifying sword beam erupted, pushing the darkness around. After several rounds of trial and error, it was all in vain. The darkness could only helplessly surround the iron sword, trying to slowly corrupt this thing. On a high slope dozens of miles away from the ancient city, Su Xiangxue, Huang Fufeng, Master Wei Chen, Zhong Ruifei, Elder Shu, Li Pengfei, as well as the ghost old man and Yu Qianlian, all stayed here, looking at the ancient city in the distance. Baichuran has successfully rushed into the city just now, and now they were waiting for his news. He came out. After a moment, Su Xiangxue suddenly said softly. Everyone was refreshed and looked in the direction of the ancient city. Sure enough, they saw Baichuran rushing out of the ancient city, followed by a lot of dark monsters and the non-stop bell sound. He seemed to carry somebody on his shoulder. He was still carrying a person, but that didn't affect his speed. With one hand carrying an unconscious body, he fought and slaughtered the dark monster with the other hand, running towards them. All the way to the high slope, Baichuran put down the body on his shoulders. Su Xiangxue greeted him first. "Are you all right?" she asked. "It's okay." Baichuran shook his head and turned the man's body on the ground up so that everyone could see his face. "Brother." Yu Qianlian lost his voice. He rushed up quickly, picked up Yu Qianren, asked the disciples to bring a stretcher, and gently placed Yu Qianren on it. Some disciples of Skyforging Castle followed him back, while the rest came to Baichuran. Elder Shu of Mystery Academy asked Baichuran, "Sword Patriarch, what's the situation inside?" Baichuran briefly described the situation inside the ancient city, and then said, "I didn't go in too deep because I had to save Yu Qianren, but the runes in the eyes of the strange beasts have been written down by me, and I will write you out for research." That city disappeared. At this time, Su Xiangxue reminded everyone. Everyone turned back together. Sure enough, inside the reed field, the ancient city gradually disappeared into the fog, which also slowly dispersed. Elder Shu quickly took out the shadow stone and recorded the whole process of the disappearance of the ancient city, while Baichuran withdrew his gaze and said, "Don't worry, I left my sword there. As long as it appears again, I can sense its position so that I am not afraid of the ancient city consciously changing its position." "Oh, yes, the Qingming sword sect's disciples have a link to their swords." Huang Fufeng nodded and said, then suddenly froze for a moment, saying, "No, Sword Patriarch, as I remembered, isn't your sword just a normal iron sword? Although it isn't my vital flying sword, I can sense its position as long as my chi is on that sword." Baichuran glanced at him angrily. "Do you have any opinion?" "No opinion, no opinion." Huang Fufeng arched his hands, and then quickly found an excuse, checked the situation of the old friend, ran to Yu Qianren's bed, avoiding Baichuran's eyes. Baichuran ignored him and turned to Su Xiangxue and others to continue to ask, "Have you recorded?" How long did it take for the ancient city to appear and disappear? Recorded, a total of 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Li Pengfei of Jade Tower drew a pocket watch from his arms and replied after checking the time. Exclude the possibility that because the Sword Patriarch rushed into the ancient city and made it not dare to move, it should be about 5 minutes between its appearance and disappearance. 5 minutes, enough. Bai Churan nodded. Judging from the time he rushed into the ancient city, there was no stronger method to deal with him. The ancient city should run out of tricks. In 5 minutes, if Bai Churan really sprinted in full force, then even if there were some traps deep inside the ancient city, it's highly likely that it would not be able to stop him. If there was no way to stop the transfer of the ancient city at that time, then he would destroy the ancient city. Others started to be busy with their own affairs. Elder Shu began to study the images of the disappearance of the ancient city that they had recorded. Su Xiangxue went to Yu Qianlian and began to express concern about Yu Qianren's situation. Bai Churan, who was doing nothing at this time, suddenly felt familiar nether energy. He looked around and found a familiar figure under a nearby tree. Seeing that other people didn't pay attention, he walked towards him. Yo! Xueling, who was observing the situation ahead, suddenly heard a familiar voice behind him. He turned his head and saw Bai Churan walking towards him lazily. Xueling, what are you doing here? Anyway, I'm not here to catch you, rest assured. Xueling replied. Bai Churan walked to Xueling and stood still, and at this moment, a female soul-taker standing behind Xueling also asked. Brother Xue, can this stranger see us? Who is he? Bai Churan looked at this female soul-taker, unexpectedly discovered that she was actually a very beautiful little girl. She had very little makeup on her body and looked very clean and comfortable. Apart from her pale face, she had no shortcomings. More important, this female soul-taker also has a pair of huge boobs, which stretched the uniform on her chest tightly. Bai Churan looked at Xueling, and then looked at the woman who was pulling his clothes, suddenly felt jealousy. Damn, even ghosts have a girlfriend. Bai Churan thought. This man is the big sinner in the Book of Life and Death, the infamous Bai Churan who has escaped death for 3,000 years. Xueling pointed to Bai Churan and introduced it to the female soul-taker. Then he noticed Bai Churan's complexion and asked, Do you have any comments? Bai Churan looked at the female's yin and then asked. This one is. She's Ming Ying, my subordinate and lover. Xueling reached out and hugged the woman's shoulder, and the woman's yawn gave a small exclaim, a pale red flashed on her pale face, but she didn't refute it. Maybe it's an illusion, Bai Churan saw a smug smile on Xueling's dead face. Fuck, even a dead ghost like you has a girlfriend, but I am still single. This world is really unreasonable. Bai Churan whispered in a low voice. Okay. Xueling turned his head to look in the opposite direction. On the high slope, Su Xiangxue looked at Bai Churan absently while speaking programmatically, so he withdrew his eyes and said coldly. This is what you brought yourself. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. Bai Churan asked. It's rare for you to come to the world of living in person. What happened? You should know this. Xueling sighed very rarely. Recently, thousands of souls are missing here for no reason. All belong to people whose lifespan hasn't ended yet, so I come here to investigate. Okay. Bai Churan pointed to the reeds not far away. There are those people? I've seen it. From the bodies, they are indeed those people, but I can't find their soul, thus it's useless to me. Xueling shook his head and said. I was recently promoted to the position of director of this world's department, and such a big incident happened. Have you been promoted? Congratulations. Bai Churan froze for a moment and said. That means in the future, you Xueling have the final say to everything related to life and death on this world. Bai Churan, who has dealt with the underworld many times, knew that 9 provinces and 10 lands was not the only world under the jurisdiction of the immortal realm. There were many worlds in other planes that were ruled by the immortal realm. On the road to cultivation, the final destination was also the immortal realm. Congratulations. No matter how good you say, when your life is over, I will not be merciful to you. Xueling said coldly. You're lucky this time, someone sent you a lot of longevity pill material. You still have hundreds of years to live, so cherish it. Bai Churan touched his nose and remembered the materials that Su Shangxue had given him before. If he went to collect by himself, it was estimated that he would have to forget it by then, and then he would have a fight with the soul takers under Xueling's command. Okay, if everything is fine, Ming Ying and I will go back. Xueling glanced at Bai Churan, looking irritable. This time I knew that someone was looting the soul, but there was no response in the Book of Life and Death. What the hell has happened? Oh! Hearing Xueling's monologue, Bai Churan reacted suddenly and shouted to his back. Wait! Xueling stopped and asked back. Is there anything else? This is the case. Bai Churan told Xueling the whole story of the ancient city incident. Land immortal? This is their doing. No wonder there is no response in the Book of Life and Death. After listening, Xueling murmured. Do you know land immortal? Bai Churan asked. I know, there are records in the books of the underworld. Xueling nodded. But all the land immortals in this world should have been ascended to the immortal realm almost 100,000 years ago. I thought there was no land immortal left in this world. Oh! What's the matter? Bai Churan's eyes lit up and asked. I don't know the specifics. It's long before you and I were born. I just listened to some old seniors talk about it piece by piece, mostly unclear rumors. Xueling replied. So do you know the operation mechanism of that ancient city? Bai Churan asked again. Let me see. Xueling hesitated, pacing back and forth, and looked up at Ming Ying again. Brother Xue, the rules of the underworld. I know. Xueling walked back to Bai Churan and said. Listen, today you haven't seen me, nor seen Ming Ying. I don't know that this incident was caused by Land Immortal, and the reason you know about Land Immortal City's operation mechanism. This Bai Churan is the most talented and unparalleled in the world, so I can naturally figure it out by myself. Bai Churan said immediately. Very good. I'll go back to the underworld to check for you. Wait for my news. Xueling took Ming Ying's hand. Also, although you assist me in solving this incident, it will not be counted in your credit. I don't care about those. Bai Churan replied. I know, after all, in this mortal world, the only person who can fight with Land Immortal is you. Xueling said. I can only rely on you to solve this case. After all, I have also taken a look at the ancient city before you came, but the Book of Life and Death has no reaction to it. I think the soul of all these people has been destroyed by Land Immortal. Wait a minute. Hearing Xueling's words, Bai Churan suddenly raised his hand and said. No response. I remember that the Book of Life and Death should have a response even to the physique integration stage cultivators. Yeah, as long as you haven't passed the heaven tribulation, your name is in the book. Xueling asked. What's wrong? Oops. Bai Churan reacted immediately, and his figure turned into a flash of lightning, and ran towards the hillside beside him. Above the high slope, Yu Qiandao lying on the stretcher suddenly gave a weak moan. His palm moved slightly, and his eyes began to tremble with difficulty, trying to open his eyes. Sect leader. The great elder is awake. What? Brother. Do you feel okay? Some vague voices came from his ears. Yu Qianren slowly opened his eyes and saw Yu Qianlian, who was full of worrying and surprises in front of him. Great, you are still alive. Yu Qianlian almost wept with joy. Are you all right? Do you still recognize who I am? Ah, of course. Yu Qiandao showed a gentle smile. You are my family, my brother. During the talk, a strange black thing suddenly appeared in his hand, and he stabbed towards the back of Yu Qianlian. Be careful. In the blink of an eye, a figure flew by and reached his hand in front of Yu Qianlian's back. The strange thing also stuck on the back of his hand, and it cracked into pieces with a click. Yu Qianren flicked his mouth a little bit uncomfortably, his figure moved, and instantly flashed aside from the stretcher. Do you think you can run? Others failed to respond, and even Huang Fei Feng, who was the strongest here excluded by Churan, was in amazement because of the sudden abdication of his friend. Only Su Xiangxue reacted. A jade music instrument appeared in her hands, and a melodious sound suddenly enveloped Yu Qianren. Charming technique. The enchanting charm in the music sound made the Yu Qianren feel turbulent for a while, but he instantly stabilized his mind, drew a blade from his waist, and a terrible huge beam instantly slashed towards Su Shangxue, who was playing the music. Boom! A figure appeared in front of Su Shangxue, blocked the beam with his hands. The white beam opened a crack of 100 miles in the wilderness. Bai Churan, who just blocked the blow, raised his hand without hesitation, and slapped it to Yu Qianren. Bang! However, the figure of Yu Qianren was like a phantom. Bai Churan's palm passed through the body of Yu Qianren and hit the hillside behind the high slope. The entire hill suddenly collapsed. Oh, I didn't expect that there will be such a strong man in the world after tens of thousands of years. Yu Qianren's body was shrouded in a thick fog, the same phenomenon when the ancient city was transferred. He looked at Bai Churan and sneered. But after all, it's just an outpost. It can't be compared to the techniques of our sacred dynasty. Mortals, the time is coming, and sacred dynasty will appear in this world again. After leaving those words, his entire body was wrapped in the fog and disappeared. Skyforging Castle, in the room of Bai Churan. Su Shangxue pushed the door in. How is it? Bai Churan, who was sitting at the table, saw her coming in and asked quickly. Sect Master Yu's emotions have stabilized. Su Shangxue replied. Fortunately, Skyforging Castle's exercise, like other typical righteous sects, particularly values the tempering of mind. So what the hell is going on? Li Jinyao asked. Why did Senior Yen Qianren suddenly attack his own biological brother? As if he actually changed into a completely different man. Before speaking on this topic, Li Jinyao, why did you appear in a single man's room and act so natural? Both Ji Lingyun and Huang Fufeng almost die by worrying. Bai Churan squinted at her. Li Jinyao looked at Su Shangxue, then Tang Ruowei, and then looked at him with very innocent eyes without speaking. One is my disciple and the other is my friend, but you are nominally the star of hope for evil sects. Yet you are so majestic to stay in the enemy boss's room, is it really fine? Li Jinyao blinked and replied. I'm just curious. Alright, you can listen to it, but later you have to go back and tell the heavenly demon sect. Bai Churan waved his hand and then began to talk about the main business. Yu Qianren attacked Yu Qianlian, that's because he was no longer the same Yu Qianren, he had been possessed by someone. Possessed? Li Jinyao blinked and asked. But the ghost old man of the Nether Ghost sect was also nearby. Not to mention that we have all checked. Yuan Qianren's deity soul looked fine, how could he be possessed? I don't know, maybe this is a special technique of Land Immortal. Bai Churan replied. I guess the thing he used to attack Yu Qianlian is probably the key to possessing. By the way, have you collected that thing? Elder Shu has collected the debris and brought it back to study. Tang Ruowei replied. Wait, to put it this way, Master, you were also attacked by that thing. As she spoke, she took a step back and began to show alertness in her eyes. How do you still doubt me? Bai Churan replied lazily. That thing didn't break through my defense at all, okay? Maybe it's shattered not because it can't break through your defense, but it because has already played its effect. Tang Ruowei lowered her head and thought for a moment, then suddenly asked. Master, do you remember how big my boob is? What? Su Shangxue was shocked and angry. How does he know how big your boob is? Beast. What did you do to her? What? But Su Shangxue did not expect Bai Churan to be more shocked than her when he heard this question. This white-haired man heard the question of his apprentice and answered without hesitation. Ruowei, you still have a boob. Why didn't I know it? What? Huh. Isn't it right? As soon as Bai Churan said this, Li Jinyao and Su Shangxue both looked at Tang Ruowei's chest, and then looked blankly at Bai Churan, who looked at left and right, then looked at Tang Ruowei in confusion. Tang Ruowei lowered her head, and the atmosphere in the room became both embarrassing and dangerous. Looking down and shaking for a moment, the girl suddenly raised her palm and patted Bai Churan's face. See my palm. Tang Ruowei's palm hit Bai Churan's face, but the chi shrouded his body automatically made the force rebound, shaking her technique instead. Tang Ruowei clutched her palm in pain, took 2 deep breaths, and then said lowly, Okay, I confirmed that you are my master. Well, although I don't know what is going on between you and your master, judging from the snarkiness of Bai Qiu, Sword Patriarch, he is indeed the right one. Su Xiangxue said. But what should I do now? After the occurrence of Yu Qianren, does that mean that any of us can be replaced by land immortals afterward? Then I can only wait for the research results of Mystery Academy. I suggest that during this time, everyone except Mystery Academy is prohibited from entering that area, including us. After thinking about it, Bai Churan replied. As for us, let's stop the ancient city and kill the guy who possessed Yu Qianren first. Have you found a method to stop the ancient city? Su Xiangxue questioned. Wait a few days. Bai Churan pointed to his feet and smiled. I made a deal with the people down there. In the darkness, Yu Qianren sat on the throne in the central hall of the city, watching a mysterious rune appearing around him. He held down the two armrests of the throne and controlled the trajectory of the ancient city. Suddenly, Yu Qianren's face turned red, and he spat out a big sip of blood from his mouth. He quickly reached over and covered his mouth. The rune in front of him was twisted and disappeared into the air. It's just a scratch, is there so much power? He looked down at the red in his palm, his face was grim. This body, at any rate, is also in the peak of the physique integration stage, but I'm still badly injured. Cultivators of later generations should also not be underestimated. He looked up for a moment, then pressed the armrest of the throne, and a huge map emerged in front of him. It was a detailed map that included 9 provinces and 10 lands, and even the wilderness and demon world. The site of Yu Qianren first crossed western soil and floated to the vicinity of the Broken Soul River. Since the territory of the Sacred Dynasty has receded from the Broken Soul River, has this area become the territory of these wild beasts? Thinking for a moment, he withdrew his gaze and set his sights on the various light spots that emerged in 9 provinces and 10 lands. Well, when I awake my sleeping compatriots, sooner or later we will recover the lost territory. He reached out and tapped a few times on the map, then hesitated. Those cultivators are able to catch me this time, they obviously have speculated on my movement path. Even if I am not afraid of group battles, but... In his mind, Bai Churan's shocking palm hit him again. Forget it. After thinking for a moment, he reached out and changed the established trajectory of the ancient city. For the sake of security, let's first lift the seal on Y's immortal mansion. In this way, even if that divergent cultivator can catch me and kill me, it doesn't matter. Both his hands moved at a fast speed, pinching out various hand seal that did not exist in this era. The ancient soul entrenched in Yu Qianren's body quietly arranged everything. Under his control, the ancient city turned a corner in the void of the void and moved quietly towards another location. At night, after Bai Churan had just discussed the matter with other sects representatives and was preparing to go back to the room to rest, he suddenly felt the energy of the sword he left in the ancient city. What? He immediately came to the table and spread out the map to check. Following the induction, he found the current approximate location of the ancient city on the map. It appeared so fast this time. Has its route changed? He marked a new point on the map, then picked up the map, ready to tell others about it. After going round and round, he told this news to every sect leader and elder, but he couldn't find Yu Qianlian, so Bai Churan asked a disciple of Skyforging Castle. Where is your sect leader? Master Yu went to the World Furnace shortly after returning from that day. The disciple of Skyforging Castle replied respectfully to Bai Churan. If you want to find him, you can wait a few more days. When he comes out, I will help you inform him. Bai Churan thought about it. 9 provinces and 10 lands is huge, even I can't rush from Skyforging Castle to the place where the ancient city appears in just 5 minutes, thus now the only plan is to wait for Xueling's information about this ancient city's operating mechanism, then find a way to stop it from the track. So he said to the disciple of Skyforging Castle. Okay, then I'll wait a few more days, let's see what these land immortals are doing when they change the route. He returned to the room and began to sense and record the route of the ancient city. After this change, the movement range of the ancient city began to be limited to the 4 adjacent big provinces, Qing Province, Jiyu Province, Lin Province, and Liang Province. Perhaps because the moving distance was shortened, The frequency of the ancient city from disappearing to appearing again has been shortened to once a day. Over the next few days, Baichuran has marked many more places on the map. Some of them were mountain villages and towns where people gathered, and some were uninhabited wilderness. Although the ancient city has changed its track, it still has not changed its fundamental purpose: to wake up something that was sleeping in 9 provinces and 10 lands. After the number of moving points on the map increased, Baichuran began to deduce its moving trajectory. Late at night, Baichuran, who was struggling to draw a graph, was suddenly interrupted by a cold wind. The wind rolled up the curtains in the room, making a fine crashing sound, with a smell of death in the wind. Baichuran sighed and put down the pen in his hand. "Although you are a ghost, can you please knock on the door when you come in? It's not necessary. Soul takers do not need to maintain etiquette for living people." Schwelling's figure emerged from the void, and then a scroll was thrown into Baichuran's hands. "This is the teleportation method of the Land Immortal era." "Thank you. What about your girlfriend?" Baichuran took out a blank scroll, and printed the contents on it to this blank scroll, and then put the reprinted scroll in his own storage bag, and returned the original scroll to Schwelling. "She is currently in the ghost world, helping me cover. Besides, this is a deal. You don't need to thank me, just help me to detain the souls of these land immortals." Schwelling's eyes swept the map on Baichuran's table. "What are you drawing?" "I'm measuring that city's new trajectory." Baichuran sighed. "After being frightened by me that day, he immediately changed the trajectory of the ancient city. I am afraid that he wanted to first wake up some of the facilities of the previous era." Schwelling looked at it and said, "I may know how this thing moves." "Oh," Baichuran asked quickly. "How does it move?" Schwelling picked up the pen on the table, drew some points on the map, and then said, "This is the activation array commonly used in the last era. It is not too difficult. The underworld has still used this method. It functions as a key to the lock, but its secret has been lost in your time. According to the position of this array, the thing he wants to wake should be here." Baichuran looked at the place that Schwelling circled, and was surprised. "This place is the capital of Qing Province's Shangling Kingdom before it splits. That's normal. The remnants of the ordinary era like to rebuild civilization on the ruins of the previous era." Schwelling threw the pen on the table and said quietly, "So that's it, the deal is over and I'm gone." "Wait a minute," Baichuran said. "Can you tell me how the land immortal possess Yu Qianren? When we found him, his deity soul is still the same as before. I have confirmed it. You know, the deity soul does not mean that the 3 souls and 7 spirits are all transformed into it. More exactly, the original 3 souls and 7 spirits are covered with a layer of consciousness which turned into deity soul." Schwelling said, and suddenly glanced at Baichuran, laughed. "Oh, I almost forgot. Qi refining cultivators can't have a deity soul, so it's normal that you don't know." Baichuran's face darkened. He said coldly, "You care about your job performance this year, don't you?" Schwelling slipped his head and did not answer, saying, "That's it, I went back." Before Baichuran had attacked, he quickly walked into the void and disappeared. "Damn, what an arrogant ghost," Baichuran whispered, then looked at the map. "But deity soul? That is to say, the 3 souls and 7 spirits inside Yu Qianren's deity soul have been taken away by Land Immortal. Their technique is really impressive." He looked at the ancient emperor capital of the Shangling Kingdom, which was finally marked on the map, and then put away the map, took out the telescope array in the storage bag, and studied it. "This is the way to stop the ancient city." In the main hall of Skyforging Castle, Baichuran took out a new scroll and handed it to the representatives. "Then, I still have the formation of the teleportation array here. I have tested it. The things on it are genuine. This copy will be left in the book collection pavilion of the Righteous Alliance, so everyone can learn." Baichuran said. "However, this kind of formation is very difficult. You need to have very high attainments in spells, calculations, and formations. Don't let people who are not good at math learn it. Moreover, to use this formation you must be at least deity transformation stage." Hearing what he said, the representatives of Jade Building, Mystery Academy, heavenly army all smiled, and even Wei Chen, master monk of Saint Buddha sect, rarely gave a good mood to say Zenzai. They did not ask Bai Churan where this scroll came from. As far as they knew, Sword Patriarch has lived for so long, and his friends were naturally not limited to 9 provinces and 10 lands. Of course, with Bai Churan's talent, he may be able to figure it out by himself. At this time, although evil sects were embarrassed to say, they also looked at the righteous alliance with envious eyes, and some of them even started to calculate the spy plan. Don't think about killing people and stealing treasure, or using spies to steal intelligence. Seeing the look of her colleagues, Su Xiangxue also said, Sword Patriarch also gave me a copy, and then I will send this formation to the hands of Heavenly Demon Sect and Nether Ghost Sect separately. Hearing her words, the fierce glare in the eyes of demonic cultivators who had been thinking about the evil plan subsided again, and when they were relieved, they became a bit boring. Not doing bad things for a long time, they all felt that they were assimilated by the righteous way. Then I know the trajectory of the ancient city, the method of stopping. After you learn it, we can go to block it. Bai Churan clapped. When the time comes, we'll pay evil unto evil. Speaking of this, has little you come out of the furnace? Not yet. Su Xiangxue shook her head. Then we will wait a few more days and wait for everyone to learn how to stop the formation, and then set off to stop the ancient city. Bai Churan suggested. After all, time waits for no one. Although it's a bit unfair to little you, we really can't miss this chance. A few days later, the disciples of the major sects gathered outside the gate of Skyforging Castle and were ready to go. Bai Churan and others also no longer waited for Yu Chenlian, who had not yet appeared, to prepare to go directly to the place where the ancient city would appear. But just as everyone was about to leave, Yu Chenlian appeared. His face was tired, and his clothes were crumpled. There were even some black marks on his face, and he looked more like a beggar than a cultivator. Holding something wrapped by a white cloth in his hand, he came to Huang Fu Feng. Brother Huang Fu, this is for you. He opened the white cloth. Inside it was a magic blade. The blade was dark, unpretentious, and only a green gem was inlaid behind the handle. Huang Fu Feng recognized the gemstone inlaid on the handle and talked with a shocking voice. Soul-capturing stone? Little you are. I know that I can't save my elder brother. This weapon is called Soul-Absorbing Blade. I made it with the backbone of a demon dragon and the soul-capturing stone in the furnace of heaven and earth. It can absorb the soul of the cultivator who was killed by it. Yu Chenlian held the blade in both hands and handed it forward. Brother Huang Fu, this knife is my reward, please use it to help me kill my brother. He lowered his head, concealing the painful expression, and handed the sword to Huang Fu Feng. I understand. Huang Fu Feng was silent for a moment, took this blade, and put it behind him. I will use it to end his misery. In the ancient city, Yu Chenren looked at the densely packed light spots near Qing province on the map with satisfaction. Using the formation that could create a small space in the ancient city to create the vortex of the aura, that's the only way to make this activation formation, which functioned as the key to open the wise immortal mansion. This was also the means left by the land immortals on the eve of the fall of the sacred dynasty. In this way, even if the plan for the return of the sacred dynasty fails, we are not without the possibility of making a comeback. He said to himself. Next is the end. He got up from the throne in the temple, his eyes penetrated through the darkness, and he shot at the square outside the temple. On the square, countless monsters whose whole body was covered with dark matter and white runes were flooding the whole square. They were people who have been captured by the bells in the ancient city from time to time in these days. All of them were transformed into monsters by him. In the era of the sacred dynasty, they were called the Yellow Scarf Fighter. That's because, in order to cover up their terrible appearance, the sacred dynasty had covered the monsters with yellow scarves. This kind of transformation required specific energy that only land immortals were able to form, and the upper limit of strength could only reach the level of physique integration stage. In order to create them, Yu Chenren has been collecting materials since it was awakened, and until now, it has exhausted the sense left by the last emperor of the Holy Dynasty to become such a large army. He originally believed that such a large army should be enough to sweep away all obstacles in this era. According to what he learned from the memory of this body, it seemed that this is indeed the case. But there was only one person who gave him no assurance of victory. Qingming's sword patriarch? There are still such freaks in the world. He looked at the void outside the ancient city and murmured, "It's okay. Anyway, the future is set. Let me take a look at how you can stop me." Although he was well aware that he's no match for Bai Churan, he still has confidence in his heart. The teleportability of the ancient was his biggest trump card. As long as he hid in a different plane, even Qingming's sword patriarch had enough power of breaking up space. It's almost impossible to find his correct position in the void. Under the control of Yu Qianren, the ancient city slowly moved from the void to the designated location. Near the ruins of the ancient imperial capital of the Shangaling Kingdom of Qing Province, a thick mist emerged out of thin air. Then, like a mirage, a figure gradually emerged from the fog, turned from virtual to real, and pressed against the ground, causing a tremor. As soon as he landed, the Yu Qianren in the ancient city immediately activated the formation in the city, because he knew in his heart that even if the other party did not understand the formation he used, they might have already figured out his final landing point. Sure enough, under the control of the ancient city hall, he sprayed a beam of light towards the sky, activating the entire formation. Around the city suddenly appeared innumerable presences of the cultivator. At the same time, there was a strong flow of true qi in all directions. Under the urging of these energies, a huge and complex formation appeared in the sky, which fell to the ground, linked to the power of the ground veins, and blocked the surrounding space, completely locked the ancient city in this place. Damn, when we left, His Majesty specially ordered people to remove all the space spells in the world. Yu Qianren gritted his teeth. Are these future generations figuring out by themselves so quickly? The original plan was disrupted in an instant. Yu Qianren felt that his face was hot. He immediately manipulated the defense mechanism of the ancient city. Within the ancient city, the big clock placed in the square in front of the temple swayed and issued a loud bell sound. At the same time, Yellow Scarf Fighter flew out of the city and attacked in all the directions where cultivators appeared. After finishing all this, he also got up and manipulated the last remaining material in the ancient city, forming a layer of black matter wrapped around his body, and then mixed among the Yellow Scarf Fighters. Yu Qianren first followed a team to the east, but he saw a cloud in the horizon of the east suddenly turned into more than 1,000 cultivators, standing densely in the clouds, forming a formation. In front of that formation, 2 cultivators stood. One of them held a large jade pen and splashed ink in the clouds. Using the sky as a canvas, he painted countless dragons, phoenixes, and unicorns in the clouds. These monsters turned into real things, and slew a large number of Yellow Scarf Fighters. The other person kept pinching the magic seals with both hands, casting some spells that even Yu Qianren had never seen. Under his control, the weather began to transform, turning into infinite fire rain, wind blade, and lightning bolt, blocked the way of the Yellow Scarf Fighters. The 2 men combined with the formation, and successfully blocked a large number of Yellow Scarf Fighters here. It's not easy to break through here. Yu Qianren retreated, and while no one was watching around the chaos, he quietly left the battlefield and flew towards the south. In the south, a force that was also no less than the east was waiting for him. In the air, countless black-armored soldiers stand in the clouds, and beside them are a group of monks covered in golden light. The 2 armies cooperate closely. The battle line formed like a grinding machine, crushing the charge of the yellow scarves without mercy. More importantly, there were also a black armor general and a flathead monk controlling the formation here. Like the previous 2, the 2 were also in the physique integration stage. The sword in the black armor general's hand was dancing, forming a dense net of sword beam. The flathead monk was empty-handed, but his fighting was even fiercer. At the climax he roared, and turned into a tall wise king of wrath. Seeing that they were brave and strong, Yu Qianren retreated again and quietly changed direction. All directions are blocked. After some tries, Yu Qianren reached such a conclusion in his heart. Not only in the east and south but also in the west and north, there was also a formation composed of multiple cultivators plus 2 mighty in the physique integration stage. In the east, there were 2 women, one holding a blade, cut the monsters vertically and horizontally, and the other was playing a musical instrument, exudes amazing but dangerous charm. In the south, there were two old men, with a group of disciples dressed in black clothes, manipulating a large black cloud, which seemed to be a simple poison cloud, but Yu Qianren could feel the flashing sword beam inside that cloud. Although the disciples who manipulated the sword lights seemed to be full of bitterness and helplessness, the sword in their hands was not fake. Yu Qianren even felt that these swords were even more dangerous than the black cloud. Trying all four directions, finding that there was no safe place to go, Yu Qianren retreated to the ancient city. He tried to escape but found that the formation was blocked in all directions, and even the secret method of escape into void space was not working. When he was struggling, a person suddenly patted him on the shoulder from behind. "What's up, man?" Hearing this voice, Yu Qianren pulled out the blade without hesitation, and turned back and slashed with all his strength. Under the control of the soul of a land immortal, the true qi of a physique integration stage cultivator poured unreservedly into the blade. He slashed with all his strength toward the person behind him, but that one just gently blocked the strike with one hand. Ouch, the temper is pretty big. Bai Churan pinched the blade and looked at Yu Qianren panting because of tension, laughing. "I thought that land immortals are terrific, but I walked with you and found that when you are facing enemies of the same level, you can also feel fear." During the speech, he suddenly raised his hand and pushed forward. Yu Qianren reached out to block it, only to feel that a burst of power poured into his body along with the golden palm print. Amidst a painful groan, his left arm was broken, twisting into a weird shape. Blood and bone burst out. Yu Qianren quickly withdrew from the force while waving the long blade in his hand, releasing countless blade beam, severing the surrounding earth, raising sand and dust, intending to block Bai Churan's sight. "Hey, this kind of trick can't blind me." A sword beam pierced out of the sand dust, penetrated the shoulders of Yu Qianren, and brought a bloody wound. He covered his shoulders, threw away the long blade in his hand, and manipulated it to fly around Bai Churan. At the same time, the hand originally holding the blade constantly made hand seals, and his broken arm was forcibly mended together. Clang! Bai Churan backhandedly knocked away the flying blade, which returned to the hand of Yu Qianren. The former slowly stepped out of the dust, looking at the latter's hand, and said, "I haven't seen this spell before. Is it something of your era?" Yu Qianren kept being silent, holding the blade in one hand and the other hand behind his back, and began to quietly pinch another seal. "You should be thinking of a way to get rid of me now. After all, you lived for so long, there must be a lot of your spells that I don't know that can work when I neglect. And because I am the strongest, so my companions also trust me completely. As long as you pass me, then you will have a chance to escape. Do you think so?" Bai Churan looked at the hand behind Yu Qianren and smiled. "To tell you the truth, even if you pass me, you will not be able to escape, and then you may encounter more difficult opponents." Humph! Yu Qianren snorted coldly, his palms loosened, and the long blade slowly floated to his front. He spun up quickly. By the power of his true qi, the long blade turned into a sharp blade wheel, raging like a hurricane. He didn't answer but reached for a finger and the blade wheel cut toward Bai Churan's head. The blade wheel's pressure alone cut the ground into multiple rifts, but Bai Churan just raised his hand and patted the blade wheel as if driving a mosquito away. The rapidly rotating blade wheel crossed the side of him. In a blink of an eye, it flew more than 10 miles away. Quick! At this time, Yu Qianren suddenly lifted the hand holding behind his back and shouted violently. Under the effect of his spell, space was alternately distorted in an instant. At the moment when Bai Churan was slightly surprised, the figure of Yu Qianren had disappeared from the front and went to a place more than 10 miles away in a blink. Bai Churan was shocked for a moment and then smiled. This land immortal has so many tricks, just like a circus. The long blade on the ground trembled twice, and then, like being summoned, flew up and went after Yu Qianren, but Bai Churan just watched it fly away and did not stop it. "I have said that there are more difficult enemies after me. Why don't you believe it? Alas, I think I have always treated people with sincerity, but they won't believe me, and it hurts." Bai Churan turned his head, looking at the direction of Yu Qianren running, shaking his head and saying, "You have taken Yu Qianren's body. It is not me who wants to kill you the most. Withdrawing his gaze, he stepped on his feet and left the place quietly. Yu Qianren held the long blade recalled by him and ran desperately, even daring not to look back at by Churan. After just 2 fights, he once again felt the horror of this divergent cultivator. If it wasn't for his absent-mindedness, he might now have broken into a pool of meat. Running fast all the way, Yu Qianren could feel that the formation on the ground began to weaken. Almost there. As long as I crossed the big river in front and went to the other side of the river, I was out of the range of the formation suppression. At that time, I could use the teleportation technique to escape directly, and when I found an opportunity, I would come back and take over the ancient city and wise immortal mansion. Yu Qianren constantly spurred himself in the heart and came to the river, but the figure standing in the heart of the river made him slowly stop. On the waves of the big river, Huang Fu Feng stood in the center of the river, stepping on the waves, carrying a black blade, facing him, and the hem of the fur coat fluttered in the river wind. Last time I went to Skyforging Castle to get you a drink, little you told me that you to go out and collect materials for him. On the eve of my trip, there was a certain man who brought the wine to the door to tease me and said that if I had survived the heavenly tribulation, he would accompany me to drink for a month. I didn't expect that I have passed the heavenly tribulation, but didn't have the chance to talk to you. Huang Fu Feng turned around and looked at Yu Qianren standing on the bank of the river. But it doesn't matter, we are best friends after all. It's fine if you don't fulfill your promise or be possessed by this kind of scum, I forgive you. He stretched out his hand and slowly pulled out the blade on his back, his eyes overflowing with the intention to kill. Big Yu, today I come to see you off. The river wind was blowing, the waves in the river were divided into 2 by the invisible sword, and the endless killing intentions rushed towards the Yu Qianren on the shore. Inside the Skyforging Castle, Tang Ruowei and Li Jinyao came to a room. 2 Skyforging Castle disciples standing outside the room stretched out their hands and asked, "Senior sisters, please stop. This is where Elder Liu rests. He has not yet awakened. Please leave." Tang Ruowei and Li Jinyao glanced at each other, then Li Jinyao stepped forward and smiled. "Junior brothers, we came here at the order of sect leader Yu to switch shift with the 2 of you. You should go to rest soon." The 2 disciples looked at each other, hesitating. "Here is the decree of sect leader Yu." Tang Ruowei took a piece of paper out of her sleeve and handed it to 2 disciples. The 2 disciples took the decree, glanced at it, and said, "It is indeed the handwriting of the sect master, but he has commanded us before, unless he came in person, we must not let anyone go in. Oh, junior brother, if you can't believe us, then can you believe the sect behind us?" As she said, Li Jinyao silently activated Phantom Charm. Her actions seemed to be full of charm. "Come on, let your sisters change shifts for you, go back and have a rest." When the 2 disciples heard it, they immediately felt that the young girl became an enchanted woman, and the words spoken from her pink lips seemed to have an unspeakable power, made them feel like being allured. The 2 disciples had unconsciously agreed to Li Jinyao's request and left the place staggeringly. Sister Li's move is really terrible. Tang Ruowei looked at the back of the 2 disciples with lingering fear and sighed. "No, I'm still worse than Su Xiangxue." Li Jinyao shook his head. "If sect leader Su comes here, only one look is enough to make them do anything." The 2 came to the gate of the courtyard and checked it. When they found no one nearby, Li Jinyao said, "This is not the time to talk, let's finish the things that Sword Patriarch ordered." She took some materials from her storage bag, sprinkled them on the ground, and set up a formation. Tang Ruowei looked at her and suddenly asked, "Sister Li, you are so active. Do you really have an eye on my master?" "Not yet, but I am actually very fond of Sword Patriarch." Li Jinyao still did not shy away. It seemed that she inherited the fast and quick tongue of Huang Fu Feng. "For so many years, I have rarely seen a person who can keep up with me in thinking and even better than me at some point. So Ruowei, maybe one day in the future, I would become your master's wife." After all, she winked at Tang Ruowei playfully. "Why is that old man so popular?" Tang Ruowei muttered in a low voice, and inexplicably felt a little irritable. She suppressed this kind of distraction, and also took out the materials, intently began to assist Li Jinyao's work. Above the river, a fierce battle was going on. With the rich knowledge and skills of the last era, Yu Qianren exerted nearly 120% of the peak strength of this body. He used his right hand to play a set of moves that Huangfu Feng haven't ever seen. Each slash had a different effect, a fierce fire, an ice haul, or a violent storm. His other hand constantly released spells, controlling the natural forces around him, and attacking the Huangfu Feng, intended to break through the siege and escape. However, even if he exerted the strength of the body to the extreme, it's still the power of the physique integration stage, which could not be the opponent of a great ascension demonic cultivator like Huangfu Feng. As the former leader of the Heavenly Demon Sect, current Great Elder, Huang Fufeng's qualifications may be not as good as his apprentice Ji Lingyun, and even several other elders, not to mention Li Jinyao. But with his perseverance, he has surpassed the qualification restrictions and has become the strongest demonic cultivator of this generation. He knew he was not smart enough, so the various techniques of the Heavenly Demon Sect, he only took one, demonic blade, and used the time and perseverance to push it to an unprecedented height. At this time, facing the land immortal who had killed and replaced his best friend, he finally turned from an honest man with a bold personality, to become like a demon coming out of the devil sect, a crazy demon. Even though Yu Qianren had a delicate set of skills, Huang Fufeng's blade still mercilessly split all his offensives. His blade became faster and stronger with each slash. In his purple palace, a land gradually appeared under the feet of his nascent soul, which was the sign of becoming an immortal. As Huang Fufeng used a blade move, his deity soul in the spiritual platform also made the same move, and the more he used the demon sword technique, behind him, a fierce demon god with 3 heads and 6 arms gradually emerged from the void and become more solid. The blade cut the river, and the ground peaks on both sides of the riverbank were devastated. Huang Fufeng's heart was full of grief and anger, but ironically, in the battle to give his best friend a mercy kill, his spirit and willpower reached an unprecedented unification. The breath slowly rose, the true qi in the body was boiling, and gradually leaped to another higher level of energy. Damn, is this guy making a breakthrough during a fight? Yu Qianren certainly understood what those signs meant. That's why I hate these battle maniacs. Looking at the red light in the eyes, the breath became stronger and stronger. Yu Qianren could even see the black air visible coming out of the body of Huangfu Feng. He raised his hand and pinched a seal, and rushed towards the Huangfu Feng. Huang Fufeng backhandedly made a slash, but his blade cut through the body of Yu Qianren and fell into the empty space. At the same time, Yu Qianren also raised the hand and slashed to his chest, but this blade did cut his shoulders without fail, and it cut all the way to the chest. The best way to deal with maniacs like you is to use these spells. Yu Qianren sneered. As long as a simple illusion spell is used, you people will be like donkeys who see radishism. He was talking, thus he didn't expect Huangfu Feng, who was just seriously wounded, without even saying a word, to give him another slash. This time, Huang Fufeng's blade pierced into his abdomen accurately, and Yu Qianren felt a terrible pulling force from the black long blade, trying to absorb the deity soul in the spiritual platform. Cough. Huangfu Feng coughed up a bit of blood and whispered hoarsely, "You talk too much." While speaking, he clenched his fist in the other hand and hit the face of Yu Qianren fiercely. The latter flew out, and the wound on his abdomen sprayed blood, leaving a red trail in the air. Huangfu Feng roared, ignoring the huge wound on his shoulder, lifted his blade, rushed into the smoke with the giant demon behind him, and caught up with the Yu Qianren who had not yet reacted. "I'm a land immortal. You madman. Are you insane?" Yu Qianren tried his best to resist Huangfu's offensive and shouted loudly. With the knowledge of a land immortal, he was able to fight back and forth with Huangfu Feng, but now that Huangfu Feng has completely let go of his self-restriction, he could only focus all the strength to defend. Countless blade beams spread across all the scenes on the riverbank. The giant demon god who wielded 6 blades also released thousands of slashes. Under the screams, the enemy was torn to pieces. Soon after finishing the formation, Tang Ruowei and Li Jinyao heard a painful moan from the room where Elder Liu was in. The 2 girls looked at each other, then rushed out side by side, shouting loudly, "Come here." Elder Liu woke up. What? Elder Liu woke up. The shouts of the two immediately attracted the attention of a disciple of Skyforging Castle, and dozens of people nearby squeezed into Elder Liu's room. One of them, who looked like the eldest, turned his head and shouted loudly, "Go and notify the sect leader." Taking advantage of this commotion, Li Jinyao and Tang Ruowei left quietly. What? Elder Liu woke up. Looking at the disciples who came to report, Yu Chenlian's face glowed with joy. Yes, sect leader. A disciple who worked under Elder Liu said to him. I saw with my own eyes that Elder Liu was indeed awake, and now a lot of brothers and sisters are watching him there. At this time, there is finally good news. Yu Chenlian hammered his thigh and said, I have to visit him. He got up and walked out of the door, and the disciple followed him. Yu Chenlian pushed the door open, but there was a person standing at the door long enough to make him stunned. Bai Churan was outside the door. Sword Patriarch? Why are you here? Yu Chenlian looked at Bai Churan in amazement and asked. Are you destroying the ancient city? It's almost over. There is not much left to do. Bai Churan smiled. I came here to wrap up, you come with me. In Elder Liu's room, a group of disciples was greeting with warmth. Under the cover of Yu Chenren, Elder Liu, who was escaped alive from the ancient city, also sat up, responding to the concerns of his disciples, coughing once or twice from time to time. The physique of the cultivator was much stronger than that of the mortal. Elder Liu just recovered from a coma, his serious wounds have not healed but still be able to sit up. This belonged to common situations. The only bad sign was that he coughed so much. Normally, a cultivator at his level would look as usual at this time. While the disciples interacted with Elder Liu in a friendly way, showing the harmonious relationship, someone outside the door shouted loudly. The sect leader is here. The disciples in the room quickly separated, opened a road, and then watched Yu Chenlian came to the room with the disciples who had come to report. Old Liu. Upon seeing Elder Liu sitting on the bed, Yu Chenlian's face lit up with joy, and he quickly came to beside the bed. You finally woke up. Are you okay? It's okay, senior brother, sorry to let you worry. Elder Liu coughed twice more palely, then said. How about the great elder? Has he returned safely? My brother. Yu Chenlian looked sad, seeing his face. Elder Liu already knew the result, so he sighed. What a great loss. Don't say this. Yu Chenlian patted his hand. I'm glad that you are okay. Rest well, we will not disturb you. He got up and prepared to leave, but Elder Liu took his hand. Sect leader. Elder Liu coughed twice and said weakly. Wait a minute, I have something to tell you alone. You have something to tell me? Living together for many years, Yu Chenlian had a deep trust in this fellow elder, so he thought about and then waved all of you, go out first, I have to discuss with Elder Liu. The other disciples looked at each other and all went out, and the last disciple closed the door behind him. After sensing their breath and confirming that everyone walked away, Yu Chenlian sat down next to Elder Liu and asked, Old Liu, what do you want to discuss with me? That thing is just. Elder Liu smiled, and suddenly turned his hand, and there was a pure black sharp peculiar prism in his hand. Before when Yu Chenlian could react, he stabbed towards his neck. Master Su's skill has improved again. Pulling her blade out of a corpse on the ground, Ji Lingyun admired the white lady in her side. This magical power of charm, even I can't help it but feel attracted. Sect leader Ji's swordsmanship also improves quickly. Su Xiangxue said. I believe it only takes you 2 years to defeat Zhu Yunzi of Qingming Sword Sect. That guy, sooner or later he will cut his mouth and drink. Speaking of Zhu Yunzi, Ji Lingyun's look became very bad, he sneered, then said. But sect leader Su, your target is much more difficult than mine. I can only pray for you. Hope you can slay that man as soon as possible. Sect leader Ji, I didn't want to kill him. Su Xiangxue wears the veil taken from the battle and smiles bitterly and says. Okay, don't talk about these disappointing topics, sect leader Ji, these monsters have been almost dealt with, let's hurry into the city and finish it. Okay. Ji Lingyun nodded, and the 2 female sect leaders were about to march towards the ancient city, but the beam of light in the ancient city suddenly shined. Be careful. Su Xiangxue quickly grabbed Ji Lingyun, who was so reckless, and the disciples of Kamasutra sect and Heavenly Demon sect also quickly stopped. At the next moment, the beam of light in the ancient city suddenly expanded, drowning everything in light. On the bank of the big river, Huang Fu Feng slowly stood up. Under his spell, his wound quickly stopped bleeding and began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. In front of him, there was a wounded body of Yu Qianren who had been chopped up. Under the influence of the true qi remaining in the body, the small wounds on the body of Yu Qianbla had been closed, excluding the wound on his forehead. That fatal wound was caused by a blade went between his eyebrow, penetrating through his spiritual platform. The soul that once possessed Yu Qianren's body was sucked into the blade created by Yu Qianlian. Huang Fu Feng held the blade in front of his eyes. The green dementor at the handle flashed a glimmer of light. He watched for a moment, and then slowly retracted the blade back to the sheath. Big Yu. He picked up the body of Yu Qianren on the ground, looked at it for a while, then sighed. Rest in peace. The river wind seemed to whimper. Huang Fu Feng was carrying his friend's body and was preparing to go back. At that time, the beam of light suddenly increased several times in the direction of the ancient city in the distance, illuminating the whole sky. Above the sky, it seemed to be pierced by a beam of light, and a wonderful vortex formed by clouds and space rifts appeared, slowly rotating and expanding continuously. In this vortex, a huge towering mountain grew upside down, slowly fell to the sky, and stopped a few miles above the ruins of Shangling Kingdom. Skyforging Castle, Elder Liu's room. Elder Liu, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly changed his expression. He held a dark, sharp, and wonderful prism, poured his whole true qi into it, and slammed toward the neck of Yu Qianlian who was sitting beside the bed. With a thumping noise, the prism was indeed undoubtedly hit Yu Qianlian's neck, but it was the prism that broke into pieces in front of this thin skin. How can it be? Elder Liu widened his eyes and lost his voice. Surprise. At this moment, Yu Qianlian also suddenly reached out and grabbed his face. Feeling the irresistible power, Elder Liu realized. You are not Yu Qianlian, you are. Yes. The face of Yu Qianlian slowly twisted and changed, and his hair color changed from black to white, eventually becoming a person that Elder Liu didn't want to see the most at this time. He pointed his thumb at his face and smiled proudly. It's me, Bai Churan. Creator's bodyforging technique gave Bai Churan the ability to change his body at will. He used this method to temporarily change himself into Yu Qianlian, and then to test Elder Liu. Elder Liu's face changed drastically, and he wanted to use his escape technique, but as soon as he moved, Bai Churan put his palm on his chest before that. Elder Liu has not recovered from his serious injury. Let's lie down and recuperate. The majestic palm power came through the body and instantly shattered the nascent soul in the Elder Liu's purple palace. The out-of-control true qi rushed through the body. Elder Liu's face turned red, coughed up a big mouth of blood, and dyed a piece of the blanket in red. Look, it's coughing up blood. Bai Churan smiled softly, reaching for the forehead of Elder Liu gently. Elder Liu, have a good night's sleep. At the same time when speaking, his qi was poured into the body. Elder Liu's body, except for the surface, was internally disturbed by Bai Churan's qi. His body twitched violently, his legs curled up as if they were springs. Then, a dim light flew out of his spiritual platform and flew towards the outside of the room. That's his deity soul without using spells, except for the immortals. Only about such a man as Bai Churan who has been on the edge of life and death for a long time can see it directly with the naked eye. But even if he saw it, Bai Churan didn't care. He just watched the deity soul of Elder Liu escaped from under his eyes. A moment later, Li Jinyao and Tang Ruowei pushed open the door and walked in one after the other, followed by a particularly depressed Yu Qianlian. Have you caught it? Bai Churan asked. Li Jinyao nodded and found a small green dementia stone, a bright light flashing inside the stone. This was why Bai Churan let her and Tang Ruowei come here to arrange in advance. The two girls arranged a complex formation method provided by Xueling. It did not have any effect on living beings, but it's able to capture the soul of the immortal. Good, give it to me. Bai Churan took the stone, and then looked at Yu Qianlian, who was gloomy next to him. Little Yu, I'm okay, Sword Patriarch. Yu Qianlian smiled bitterly. Think carefully, Elder Liu was not very good at fighting. Why could he escape from the ancient city, but my elder brother couldn't? I'm afraid he was accidentally possessed by Land Immortal in the process of fighting, and then backstab my big brother. Bai Churan didn't know what comforting words he should say at this moment. Although the person in front of him was already a sect leader, in his eyes, Yu Qianlian was always a kid. I'm fine, Sword Patriarch. Yu Qianlian looked up at Bai Churan and said, "This is not your responsibility. You don't need to blame yourself. Land Immortals already exist in this world. Even if they don't come this time, they will come sooner or later. Big Brother and Elder Liu just, unfortunately, fell down on this way." Bai Churan could only reach out and pat his shoulders, saying, "Hold yourself. I know." Yu Qianlian nodded and said, "I'm no longer the kid whom you had to pick up after fighting. Even if Big Brother and Elder Liu are gone, I will continue to lead the Skyforging Castle." After a short pause, he said, "Sword Patriarch, you may go and do your business, and I am going to write an obituary. Sword Patriarch, please don't let any of these Land Immortals escape." "I will." Bai Churan nodded and looked at Tang Ruowei and Li Jinyao. "You stay here, I will go to complete the transaction." After leaving Skyforging Castle, Bai Churan quickly returned to the outside of the ancient imperial capital of Shangling Kingdom, where the ancient city stopped, but at this time, he found that the place had completely changed. The pillars of light from the ancient city have disappeared. Instead, there was a 1,000-mile-high mountain hanging upside down from the sky. The peak hangs a few miles above the ground, and just below this peak was the original ancient city. Bai Churan looked around and found Su Xiangxue and others at the gate of the ancient city. He hurried over and asked, "What's the matter?" "During our battle, the formation was completed." Su Xiangxue glanced back from the sky and replied, "This is probably the goal of Land Immortals. They have awakened what they want to awaken." Elder Shu of Mystery Academy also looked up at the sky at this time and muttered, "This mountain is connected to another small world. This is an immortal mansion." His face was fanatical as if he wanted to rush in to study immediately. "Hold yourself back, this is a dangerous thing. If something goes wrong, well, I don't want to listen to your Dean Qiu Yuxuan chatter anymore." Bai Churan reminded him, and then said, "Battalion Commander Zhong, Wei Chen, please look after him, don't let him rush up." Zhong Ruifei and Wei Chen Master Monk nodded, and Bai Churan came to Huang Fu Feng again, and looked at the body put on the stretcher with him. "Sorry for your loss." After a moment, he patted the elder Taizongzong's shoulder, saying, "Little Yu is already preparing for the aftermath. Take his body back to Skyforging Castle." "I will." Huang Fu Feng responded. "And what about the soul of the Land Immortal you killed?" Bai Churan asked. "In the soul-absorbing blade." Huang Fu Feng replied, "I want to take him back, and torture him with the soul furnace in the Heavenly Demon Sect. What do Sword Patriarch want?" Bai Churan briefly mentioned his deal with Schwelling, and then asked, "Can you give me his soul? Can Sword Patriarch guarantee that his soul will be tortured like in a soul furnace?" Huang Fu Feng asked back. "Okay." Bai Churan thought for a moment, then said, "Have you heard of hell?" "Good." Huang Fu Feng nodded with satisfaction, removed the soul-absorbing blade from his back, and handed it to Bai Churan. "Then Sword Patriarch, please arrange it." "I don't have to. The underworld must have arranged it already." Bai Churan took soul-absorbing blade and said to Su Xiangxue, "I'm leaving for a while." He carried the blade and walked to a secluded place far away from the ancient city, and then used the seal tactic to summon the ghost. The breeze lifted the catkins of the willow, and a cold breath struck. Schwelling's figure appeared quietly beside Bai Churan. "Did you kill them all?" Schwelling appeared beside Bai Churan and asked lightly. "Just 2. Bai Churan took out the soul-capturing stone given to him by Li Jinyao and showed the soul-absorbing blade in front of Schwelling. "You have to find the rest. I guess all of them are still in that ancient city." "Okay." Schwelling extended his hand. "Give it to me." "Not so fast." But Bai Churan suddenly withdrew his hand. He looked at Schwelling and asked, "Can you tell me one thing first? These land immortals keep mentioning, sacred dynasty, what is it? You said you didn't know before, but after this incident came out, I believed you have investigated it, right? I did investigate and knew a lot of things. After a moment of silence, Schwelling said. But there are confidentiality regulations, thus I can't tell you. Otherwise, not only my soul will be obliterated, even Ming Ying, my subordinates and friends will also be implicated. Oh. Bai Churan asked. Is it related to the immortal realm? I can't say. Schwelling turned his head. But if you really want to know, then go find it yourself. The secret you want to know lies in Y's immortal mansion. If you are lucky, you may even learn how to break through the chi refining stage. Y's immortal mansion. Bai Churan chewed these words. Where is that? Schwelling pointed to the sky in the distance, and Bai Churan looked up and found that it was the towering mountain that hung down from the sky. That's the entrance of Y's immortal mansion. Schwelling said. If you want to know the answer, go find it yourself. Bai Churan thought for a moment, and then threw the soul-capturing stone and the soul-absorbing blade to Schwelling. The soul-taker took it, then took out a paper lantern from the void, and flicked it. 2 green lights were sucked out of the stone and the blade and were absorbed into the paper lantern. Wait a minute. Watching Schwelling put away the lantern, Bai Churan said. Although you refuse to say it, I guess that these land immortals should be the losing side in some kind of battle. What will happen to them after you are taken to the underworld? What should I do? Normally if a person didn't make a big mistake, he will be sentenced to reincarnation, but these 2 guys, directly and indirectly, led to the death of tens of thousands of people, then. Schwelling replied coldly. The only sentence that is waiting for them is to suffer in 18 circles of hell. Why do you ask? Do you want to plead for them? Of course not. Bai Churan asked. I just want to know if they will go to seamless hell. Schwelling thought about it. Although their crime is on the edge, so the sentencing is in a subtle position, I guess they will go to that in the end. That's good. Bai Churan was relieved. I don't need you anymore, just go away. Schwelling was also not annoyed. He turned and walked towards the direction of the ancient city. His figure gradually blurred and disappeared into the wind. At the same time, Mystery Academy disciples who just entered the ancient city to search, and found 2 rows of black prisms from an underground mausoleum, suddenly felt a gust of wind passing by. After became cultivators, they were no longer afraid of the cold and heat, but this gust of wind was so cold that even they felt a chill ran down the spine. The feeling was like falling into the ice cave, making their minds have a short numbness. After this gust of wind disappeared, the disciples of Mystery Academy recovered, but they were surprised to find that the prisms actually shattered into pieces and turned into piles of black fine sand. The disciples quickly reported to Elder Shu of Mystery Academy, who led people her as fast as possible and looked at this scene in amazement. What happened? He asked. I don't know, we just feel a cold wind blowing, and it turns to this. Several disciples replied, but they couldn't explain why. Elder Shu went down to check and found that there was no response in these fine sands, so he said angrily. These things must be the same as the cracked prism before, all of them are valuable research materials related to the secrets of land immortals. Now you tell me that they're all gone. The disciples of the Mystery Academy who were responsible for guarding here bowed their heads and did not dare to say anything. All right, Elder Shu, don't be angry. At this time, Bai Churan walked in from outside the mausoleum. He glanced at the prism that shattered into fine sand on the ground, and then said to Elder Shu, I know who did it. Don't blame these disciples. Sword Patriarch. Elder Shu was stunned for a moment, and then depressed his temper, saying, Who did that? Bai Churan walked to Elder Shu and whispered to his ear. Elder Shu suddenly realized. It turned out to be. Don't say it out loud. Bai Churan said. There are still many things in this ancient city, enough for you to research for a long time. He turned and walked out, looking up at the mountain above him. After a while, Su Xiangxue came to his side and looked up at the sky with him, asking, Have all the souls of Land Immortal been arrested by the Soul Taker? Well, I didn't leave any, so he won't have trouble. Bai Churan replied. Not only he has just been promoted, But he also found a partner. When he was alive, he was single. After he died, he finally found his soulmate. After all, we are old acquaintances who had known each other for so many years, not to mention that we can intercept this ancient city this time because of his help. I would feel quite too embarrassed if his joy turns into sadness because of me. People can find their soulmate even after they die. When will you be able to find yours? Su Xiangxue said quietly. Bai Churan sighed. Yeah, when? The iron tree blossoms new buds, and the deadwood will still re-emerge every spring. No one is forever young. When will Churan get married? Su Xiangxue continued to mutter with a grudge. Are you here to make fun of me? Bai Churan asked with a stinky face. Su Xiangxue really wanted to go back and say that actually I'm here to make love with you, but after thinking it over carefully, she felt that it was too inelegant, afraid that Bai Chuo would not like it, so she changed her words. Seriously, have you ever thought about getting married? She looked up at Bai Churan and encouraged. Wealth, technique, partner, and land are 4 things that are indispensable for cultivators. This sentence is not empty talk. Maybe if you find a girl, you will have inspiration, and can you break through the foundation establishment stage? This one. Bai Churan looked a little moved, but after thinking about it, he shook his head again. Forcing marriage is not something a righteous person should do, and I don't have a suitable object in my heart. I'll try again to see can I break through the foundation establishment stage by myself. Su Xiangxue rolled her eyes. With all my respect, you have tried for more than 3,000 years. It's different this time. Bai Churan looked at the sky and pointed to the mountain peak and said, this time someone told me clearly that there might be a clue about how someone like me breaks through the foundation establishment stage. I think that at least I have to take a look. In the concept of mortals, Immortal Mansion was the place where the immortal lived. In the concept of the cultivator, it was an independent small world, which was opened up by those cultivators who have the ability to move mountains and fill the sea. Although in the cultivation world nowadays, this kind of magic that could open up an independent world has been lost, in the library of some large sects that existed before the war between humans and demons, there were still some vague records. According to the above statement, in the previous era, as long as the cultivator reached the physique integration stage, he could use a special space technique to open up his own independent world. However, because of the chronology, in the current cultivation world, the study of space magic was just getting started. In Jade Tower, Mystery Academy, and some other famous big sects in the world, there were only 1 or 2 places that used space technology. Compared with the techniques of the ancient city to manipulate space, these techniques were still very rough and took a lot of manpower and material resources to develop and use, which was very troublesome. Most of the immortal mansions that existed in the cultivation world today were left over by the mighty who lived from many years ago. But none of them could compare to the immortal mansion awakened by the ancient city. This mansion broke the sky, created a spatial vortex, looked like a mountain hang upside down from the sky, and this was only the entrance. Since the battle with the land immortals, the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance have tacitly sent people to block this entrance, but there were still many cultivators took advantage of when these 2 factions, for the sake of 9 provinces and 10 lands, fought the monsters of ancient city, to quietly fly across the battlefield and sneak into this entrance. They came with the attitude of fishing in muddied waters, and wanted to take advantage of the fact the 2 largest forces were busy to enter this unique immortal mansion and seek opportunities and treasures, wishing to become strong enough to make the 2 factions admiring them. People were always self-interested. This kind of thing has happened many times before, and it has been repeatedly banned. Once these people have already entered, the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance had no way to deal with them. Fortunately, after the 2 factions sent people to blockade, no more people sneaked in here. Of course, there were 2 sides to everything. The Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance joined forces to block the entrance. On the one hand, that's because they wanted to get lead. On the other hand, it also prevented those who were not good enough from risking their lives. Moreover, the cultivators who sneaked in before did give help to the 2 forces. At least after several cultivators were killed by a bolt of sudden lightning, the 2 forces also figured out the limit of the entrance. Below the nascent soul stage and above the foundation establishment stage, this was the entry threshold for this immortal mansion. Once the entrance cultivation level reached the nascent soul stage or above, the formation at the entrance would be activated, attracting thunder and lightning in the sky, allowing the cultivators to enjoy the happiness of experiencing the tribulation early and passing away on the spot. Withstanding the heavenly tribulation said that it is these cultivators who have not yet reached the stage of crossing tribulation. Even for Huang Fu Feng, who has already survived the heavenly tribulation, the experience was so awful that he never wanted to go through it again. And the reason why the entry threshold was above the foundation establishment stage, that's because only the cultivators who have reached the foundation establishment stage could fly with flying swords and reach the entrance located several miles high in the sky. Of course, this restriction had no effect on a certain man. So I want to go in this time. In the main hall of Qingming Sword Sect, Bai Churan said seriously while facing a group of elders and sect leaders. You can arrange the rest of the staff. I must go up anyway. Uncle Ancestor, if you are going, we definitely won't object. Zhu Yunzi said. This is very dangerous. After all, it is the immortal mansion where the land immortal awakens at the expense of his life. No one knows what is hidden inside, and we can only send out those below the nascent soul stage. If Uncle Ancestor takes care of them, of course, we should rest assured. No, I mean, Bai Churan said. You have to form a team this time, just as if I did not go. I also want to go in to find a chance, lest I have to act alone. When everyone goes together, I can of course protect those disciples, but once I leave, they still have to rely on themselves. Okay. Zhu Yunzi pondered for a moment, and then said. Then how about this? We Qingming Sword Sect enter in 2 batches, what do you think? He looked at his senior brothers and sisters, and then at Bai Churan. Always under the care of Uncle Ancestor, these little kids won't get any experience. It's better to hide this fact from them and let them figure out their own way. Uncle Ancestor, please wait for everyone to enter, then you can go in by yourself and look for opportunities. If our disciples really encounter a crisis that cannot be resolved, it will not be too late for you to help. Okay. Bai Churan nodded and said. Does anyone have opinions? The elders of the Qingming Sword Sect all nodded. None of them mentioned other circumstances, such as what should the Qingming Sword Sect disciples do if they encountered danger in other places when Bai Churan left without knowing it. Cultivation was inherently going against heaven. Although the righteous cultivators did not advocate harming others and benefiting themselves as the demonic cultivator, in any case, cultivation always has to seize the heavens and the earth to nurture oneself. Otherwise the heavens would not give heavenly tribulation when someone was about to ascend to immortality. And to treat their own disciples, the masters of the cultivation world must sometimes learn to push them into a dangerous situation, just like an eagle pushing a cub down a cliff. A cultivator who could not learn to face a crisis, like an eagle that couldn't fly, could live comfortably for a while, but sooner or later would have to pay a price. After returning to the 7-star peak, Bai Churan began to prepare what he needed to explore the mansion. In fact, he didn't have much to prepare. He just prepared something to replace those he couldn't use with the seal technique, some necessary small magic props, and hundreds of brand new fine iron swords. His actions naturally aroused the suspicion of Tang Ruowei, who was living together with him, but Bai Churan still chose to treat her equally and didn't tell her anything. However, in the team sent by the Qingming Sword Sect this time, Tang Ruowei and another disciple who had heavenly-level spiritual root were chosen to go in. Together with other Qingming disciples, they would explore this immortal mansion. And Bai Churan also heard Tang Ruowei say that the person leading the exploration team of Qingming Sword Sect was a person he's very familiar with. Staying up late to prepare Tang Ruowei's necessary talisman and pill, early the next morning, Bai Churan took Tang Ruowei to the main peak of the Qingming Sword Sect. Tang Ruowei was going to assemble and set off with the exploration team, and although Bai Churan didn't tell them that he would also go to the Mainyan, nominally he had to take the Qingming Sword Sect team to the town. He wanted to go in, so Zhu Yunzi had to go with him. When Bai Churan entered, he would become the host instead. It was embarrassing for Bai Churan to let his apprentice bring him over the main peak by flying sword. As soon as Bai Churan landed, he saw a dark figure rushing towards him. Damned old man, see my kick. The little dark figure yelled, jumped up high, and kicked him in the face. Bai Churan subconsciously slapped her to the side, and the black shadow rolled and fell into a bush on the side of the road. Then a girl who was about 12 or 13 years old was touching her head and crying out in pain. What? Seeing this little girl, Bai Churan was stunned for a moment, and then said, Little Egg, is it you? What the hell is Little Egg? Tang Ruowei was shocked. Master, this is Sister Qing Danying, one of the guardian spirit beasts of the Qingming sword sect. I know. Bai Churan nodded. At this moment, Qing Danying had stood up. She patted the weeds on her head, yelled, and put on a fist posture with her arms raised flat, like a cross. Damned thief! Look at my new move. Qing Danying shouted angrily to Bai Churan. This move is the posture I have learned from the supreme cultivation technique of my clan. It is like a phoenix on the parasol tree spreading its wings, possessing the power of burning everything into ashes. This move will definitely beat you, Little Egg. Bai Churan said to her lightly. You are a chicken, don't pretend to be a phoenix. Shut up. Qing Danying's face flushed with anger, furious. Take my move, sky-soaring cross-phoenix. She jumped high, hovering around her body with a mysterious emerald green fire, and then the little girl waggled her tail in mid-air, kicking it straight towards Bai Churan's face. Although this kick looked a bit funny, its power was real. As one of the guardian spirit beasts, Qing Danying's cultivation level was also at the peak of the nascent soul stage. If this kick hit a mountain, it could directly blast the mountain's top half away, not to mention the emerald green fire released by Qing Danying, which made it even more powerful. But unfortunately, the target of her attack was the old monster Bai Churan who had lived for 3,000 years. Immediately before Qing Danying's kick hit, Bai Churan has seen through the trajectory of her attacks. Although the little girl was extremely fast, he still grabbed her ankle easily and lifted it upside down. As for the green fire mixed with the attack, Bai Churan unloaded it into the sky casually, knocking out a big hole in the sky, and then bursting into an emerald green firework. Little girl, if you want to defeat me, go back and train for 2,000 to 3,000 years more. Bai Churan shook Qing Danying, then threw her aside. The little girl gave a painful grunt, rolled on the ground twice, then got up and stared at Bai Churan with angry eyes. Sister Qing Danying. Tang Ruowei persuaded. Give up, you can't beat him. Qing Danying's face blushed and white, then snorted and turned her head come to gather. Taking a duck-like step like a king, she walked past Bai Churan with her head high and walked further inward. Tang Ruowei took the opportunity to walk up, and whispered to Bai Churan. Master, have you had a problem with her? When you joined the sect, didn't that stinky boy Zhu Yunzi told you that I raised a chicken that has transformed into human form? Bai Churan scratched his face, a little ashamed. She is that chicken. Ah, what? Tang Ruowei said in surprise. But I heard people say that Sister Qing Danying is really a blue pheasant, the legendary bird of good fortune. Yes, but when I picked her up at the vegetable market in the town under the mountain, she was thin and small, and her fur was still black. I thought it was a silky chicken. Bai Churan touched his chin and said. Later, after 100 or 200 years of raising, her fur color became bluer and bluer. I wondered if the chicken had mutated from eating some herb. Tang Ruowei was speechless, and then asked. Then why is she so hostile to you? Logically, aren't you her master? Yeah, I am puzzled too. Bai Churan replied. Even if she is a blue pheasant, I didn't ask her to do anything special and have fed her well. At most, I let her lay an egg every day to improve my meal. What's wrong? I think there is a record in the ancient books that the sacred birds such as the blue pheasant and phoenix saw their eggs as children. Tang Ruowei hesitated for a long time, but still whispered. Then I think you deserve it. But I did everything. After the girl transformed into human form, she kicked me in the face without saying anything, and then ran to the main peak and didn't go back. Bai Churan touched his head. Then I can't help but let her hate me. Tang Ruowei sighed helplessly. The master and apprentice walked side by side to the school grounds of Qingming sword sect. Other direct disciples had already arrived one after another, and the head of the sect, Zhu Yunzi, was also standing in front of the school grounds. Qing Danying, who had just rushed in, also stood akimbo beside Zhu Yunzi, like a big sister, when she saw Bai Churan coming in, she snorted and twisted her head aside. Bai Churan ignored her and led Tang Ruowei all the way forward. He walked to the other side of Zhu Yunzi, while Tang Ruowei got into the team of his disciples and stood at the back of the team. And at this time, Bai Churan finally saw another heavenly-level spiritual root disciple who was accepted as a direct disciple by Zhu Yunzi. This is an ordinary-looking young man who looks a little woody, wearing a dress that was passed down to him, standing among other disciples, as if in a daze. Bai Churan took a look and found that his attribute was metal, which coincided with the attributes of Zhu Yunzi's favorite sharp golden sword. His current cultivation level was roughly in the late period of the foundation establishment stage, which was slightly weaker than Tang Ruowei, who has reached the peak. But Tang Ruowei currently cultivated in other areas, while this young man solely focused on the sword. His sword aura seemed to have been initially solidified. If Tang Ruowei really fought him, who would win was still unclear. Nodding in satisfaction, Bai Churan and Zhu Yunzi looked at each other. The latter apparently noticed Bai Churan's gaze and showed him a slightly proud smile. Then he raised his hand and began to announce to these disciples what they would do when exploring the immortal mansion. TL's note. After the announcement, Zhu Yunzi and Bai Churan took the disciples and went on the way. Because of the speed of the disciples, Bai Churan didn't go by himself, but sat on the sword of Zhu Yunzi and let his disciple take him to fly. The disciples of the Qingming sword sect, with varying levels of cultivation, naturally couldn't run across a province in an instant like Bai Churan. Many of them were golden cores, some like Tang Ruowei and Zhu Yunzi's student was just foundation establishment stage. Counting the time they stopped along the way to rest, it took nearly a month to arrive at the designated place. After arriving at the place, they happened to meet the disciples of the Heavenly Demon sect brought by Huangfu Feng and Ji Lingyun. The distance between the headquarters of the Heavenly Demon sect and the imperial capital of the Shangling Kingdom was a little farther than the Qingming sword sect, which was adjacent to Qing province. However, the Supreme Elder Huangfu Feng of the Heavenly Demon sect has reached the Great Ascension stage. He was able to carry all the disciples on his own flying blade, unlike Bai Churan who could only sit awkwardly on the flying sword of his disciple. Looking at other disciples of Qingming's sword sect flew by themselves. Under these conditions, it caused the Heavenly Demon sect team, which was farther away, to collide with the Qingming sword sect team. As soon as the two parties met, the Heavenly Demon sect's leader Ji Lingyun looked very unsightly when she saw that Zhu Yunzi. "Why is it stink like shit around here?" She frowned in disgust, touched the bare part of her arm, and said to herself, "It's really bad luck. Oh, why didn't I smell it? Miss Lingyun, have you cultivated a technique to enhance the sense of smell?" Zhu Yunzi touched his nose very unconsciously, and then said to Ji Lingyun with a smile on his face, "It's been a long time, Miss Lingyun. I'm relieved to see that you are still so manly. This smell is really getting worse and worse." Ji Lingyun smiled like a flower, but there were obvious blue veins on her forehead, and the long knife on her waist was slightly unsheathed, saying, "It seems that this cesspit needs to be plugged. Right, everyone?" She turned to look at the disciples she had brought, but it was obvious that none of the disciples of the Sky Demon sect paid any attention to her. Li Jinyaro smiled gently at the disciples of the Qingming sword sect and looked at every male disciple of the Qingming sword sect with twinkle eyes, but after a while, she withdrew her gaze again in disappointment, and then looked at another. When her gaze met Bai Churan who was standing behind Zhu Yunzi, she nodded with satisfaction. The second apprentice, Tayin, was standing on the spot and giggling. Ji Lingyun didn't know what she was smirking. The eighth apprentice took out a lot of miscellaneous novels, and brought several apprentices around, reading the book without talking. The third apprentice Yin Chaji, with an aggressive smile, leaned on the eldest apprentice who was studying a technique. "Hehe, dear senior brother, what are you reading? Let this junior brother join with you." "Don't do that, Chaji." A large group of direct disciples of the Heavenly Demon sect, who was carefully taught by her, have well inherited the tradition of the demon sect to deceive the master and destroy the ancestor. At this critical moment of the tit-for-tat between the righteous cultivator and demonic cultivator, no one responded to her. Ji Lingyun's heart was a little sad, and even the anger that was picked up by Zhu Yunzi went out. She sighed lightly and put the blade back in its sheath. Then the next moment, She heard Zhu Yunzi's introduction to Bai Churan for herself. When I was traveling, I ran into Miss Ji taking a bath in a lake in Yong province. She carried a blade and chased me naked for 3 days and 3 nights. So manly. Boom. A burst of true qi erupted from Ji Lingyun's body, forming a tall imaginary image of the heavenly demon. She slashed out, and countless phantoms of the demon god bloomed from the blade, wailing and rushing towards the direction of Zhu Yunzi. Damn. Really? Zhu Yunzi screamed, but he withdrew his sword very calmly. Under his control, the cyan flying sword under his step swung countless mysterious trails in the air, and the sword beam cut Ji Lingyun's move into tiny pieces. Haha, Miss Lingyun, you aren't good enough to attack me. Zhu Yunzi smiled triumphantly. Don't forget that Qingming Sword Sect's disciples are unrivaled in one-on-one combat, ha ha ha. But he forgot one thing. To use this move he needed to withdraw his flying sword, therefore Bai Churan, who was standing with him on the flying sword, no longer had a foothold. As a physique integration stage cultivator, he could naturally float in the air at will, but Bai Churan couldn't. In the direction that Zhu Yunzi did not see, the disciples Qingming Sword Sect and Heavenly Demon Sect watched Bai Churan fall in a freely landing position, and then looked at the Qingming Sword Sect's leader with the "you are already dead" eyes. In the afternoon, Su Xiangxue also came here with the disciples of the Kamasutra sect. The disciples of the Kamasutra sect were all women, and because of the technique they practiced, all of them a fascinating and charming temperament. They followed the sect leader to the ground. That's when they saw a young man who was hung upside down on a tree with a bloody nose and swollen face. The disciples of the Kamasutra sect were curious, had a twittering discussion, and then one asked Su Xiangxue, "Master, who is that person?" Su Xiangxue took a look and found the one who just asked was her direct student, Yu Maiqiao. Like Su Xiangxue, she was also half human and half demon, born from the time the demon staying in the 9 provinces and 10 lands, and she also cultivated the phantom charm. However, unlike Su Xiangxue, who has a quiet and gentle personality and has been trained by Bai Churan, Yu Maiqiao inherited the bloodline of Nightingale Demon. She was eccentric and lively. Su Xiangxue touched her head and looked at the person who was hanging upside down on the tree. After only one glance, she recognized the person's identity and replied lightly. This person is Zhu Yunzi, the current head of the Qingming Sword Sect. What? When the disciples heard this, they immediately started discussing in a panic. Yu Maiqiao also asked. I heard that the sect leader of the Qingming Sword Sect, Zhu Yunzi, is the #1 master among all sect leaders of the Righteous Tao League. With the sharp golden sword in hand, he is invincible. Even you have admitted that you are not his opponent. Now even he was hung there, is it? Don't panic. Su Xiangxue replied. I know who did it, don't worry, it's not the first time Zhu Yunzi was beaten like this. Could it be that we demonic cultivators have hidden masters? The disciples of the Kamasutra sect were still shallow. Although they joined a major evil sect, they still retained a trace of their conscience. In their thought, cultivators could never do something so cruel to their own people. On the contrary, Yu Maiqiao seemed to have thought of something, looking at her master with twinkling eyes. Su Xiangxue also seemed to know what her disciple was thinking, and tapped gently on the top of Maiqiao's head, and then said, Come on, let's go in first. Sect leader. As soon as she entered the ancient capital of Shangling Kingdom, Mu Huan, the elder of the Kamasutra sect who had been sent to guard here, greeted him and saluted Su Xiangxue. Elder Mu, you have worked hard. Su Xiangxue smiled at her, then looked aside. Other major sects of the Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance also sent elders to guard separately to prevent loose cultivators or small sects from sneaking in. Su Xiangxue noticed the representative of the Saint Buddha sect was Wei Chen. Elder Mu Huan, I didn't expect you to stay in the same place with Zen Master Wei Chen for so many days without a fight. How did you get along so well? Without a fight? They have fought many times. Before he had time to be happy, Fu Yunzi, the 4th elder of Qingming Sword Sect, said. No one knows how many battles they have played in the past few days. It's just that all nearby mountains are basically flattened by them. Oh! Su Xiangxue's strange way. Then why are they two so honest now? Fu Yunzi looked left, looked right, and then whispered to Su Xiangxue sneakily. Later, Uncle Ancestor came to check the situation and found them annoying, so he beat them both, and said that if they fight again, he will join until they don't want to fight anymore. Miss Su, please keep it between us only, don't tell Uncle Ancestor. Don't tell me what? Bai Churan's voice suddenly rang from behind Fu Yunzi, which shocked him. Nothing, nothing. Fu Yunzi smiled and said, Uncle Ancestor, you can chat with her. I need to go to arrange staying place for the team of Qingming Sword Sect. Bai Churan stared at his back without uttering a word, making Fu Yunzi get goosebumps. After a while, he asked, Did you hook up with Li Pengfei again to sell the publications you created? Fu Yunzi of Qingming Sword Sect and Li Pengfei of Jade Tower had a close personal relationship. This was a piece of information that only several big sects knew. Li Pengfei was famous for his painting skills, and his condensed Dao spirit was also a painting. He has the epithet Saint of Painting in the cultivation world. His paintings could even become living entities, acting on their own. Fu Yunzi, the fourth elders of the Qingming Sword Sect, the one in charge of the library, was also an artist. His specialty was calligraphy, which he used to comprehend swordsmanship. The characters written by the sword and the calligraphy skills complement each other. Even his sword looked like a big brush. His epithet was Sword Saint Scholar. Of course, these were not problems. The main problem was that these two friends have a very vulgar hobby. Fu Yunzi's literary talent was extraordinary, but he didn't use it in a righteous way. Instead, he preferred some very lewd articles about the passion of men and women. His writing style was extraordinary, and the things he wrote were thought-provoking and imaginative. Next up, Saint of Painting Li Pengfei would use his extraordinary painting skills to match these things written by Fu Yunzi with vivid illustrations. Two perverts often used this method to earn extra money. Rumors said that their collaborated works have made rich and powerful nobles of the mortal world sought after like crazy, and even in the cultivation world, these things were also priceless masterpieces. Anyway, Su Xiangxue once secretly complained with Bai Churan, saying that in her pleasure realm, there were many works of Fu Yunzi and Li Pengfei in her collection. Among them, there were even some books that dared to use protagonists based on Bai Churan. Fu Yunzi was bold enough to name one 1,000-years-old man loses his virginity. Ever since Bai Churan thrashed him up one time, this guy has never dared to boast about the things he and Li Pengfei had made in front of Bai Churan. After hearing Bai Churan's question, Fu Yunzi quickly explained. No, Uncle Ancestor, I swear on Big Brother's honor that I definitely did not sell those things, at least not in this city. Oh, really? Bai Churan sneered and took out a book with the title Shota A by written impressively. It seems that I am your source of inspiration. Fuck. The fourth elder Fu Yunzi opened his eyes wide and looked at the elders of the other sects. In response to his gaze, the elders of the other sects all looked away and acted as if they didn't know him. Don't look around. Bai Churan snorted, and Fu Yunzi stood at attention subconsciously. It has nothing to do with them, I found this thing by myself. As for you, I will give you 20 minutes to arrange everything, do you understand? Understand. Fu Yunzi nodded sadly and left here dejectedly. It said that 20 minutes later, disciples of the Kamasutra sect and the Heavenly Demon sect witnessed the fourth elder of Qingming Sword sect hanging himself up with a hemp rope on another branch of the tree where Juyunzi was hung, but this was another story. Seeing Fu Yunzi's lonely back, Su Xiangxue quietly said to Bai Churan, At any rate, they are still sect leader and elder of your Qingming Sword sect. Are you too disregarding the appearance of the Qingming Sword sect in front of other big sects? No. Bai Churan gave her a thumbs up and smiled. Before I beat them, I beat the Heavenly Demon sect by the way. Bai Churan's idea was very bachelor. Anyway, Qingming Sword sect was not the only one that was ashamed. If you do this, won't the Heavenly Demon sect's great elder Huangfu Feng trouble you? No, he couldn't beat me anyway, and when I beat Ji Lingyun, the old boy thought it was a kind of guidance to Ji Lingyun, and he clapped and cheered. Su Xiangxue rolled her eyes, then spread her hands and said, So, you know the rule. Let me handle it for you. Bai Churan handed this unhealthy reading to Su Xiangxue, and then the leader of the Kamasutra sect opened it and read it quickly, evaluating the value of this publication from a professional perspective. 3 minutes later, she closed the book and said seriously, "Well, the skills of Saint of Painting and the literary talent of Fu Yunzi have improved, Mai Qiao. Give Sword Patriarch 2,000 high-grade spirit stones." Yu Mai Qiao frowned upon hearing this. As Su Xiangshue's most favored disciple, she certainly knew a lot of her master's secrets. Since Bai Churan discovered Fu Yunzi and Li Pengfei's activities, this kind of transaction has been conducted many times. For other reading materials, Su Xiangxue would auction them off in the pleasure realm, and the income would be divided equally between Kamasutra sect and Bai Churan. But when the male protagonist used Bai Churan as a template, Su Xiangxue bought it with her own money. Yu Mai Qiao knew what the contents of the stuff in a row on the bookshelf in her master's boudoir were. But of course, she wouldn't say it. Instead, she took out the wealth that Su Xiangxue asked her to keep for her from the storage bag, counted 2,000 high-grade spirit stones, and handed it to Bai Churan. Bai Churan took it and smiled at Su Xiangxue. The eyes of the former revealed the meaning of cooperate again next time, and the eyes of the latter also revealed that she understood. This scene fell into the eyes of others, and everyone secretly thought it's lovey-dovey. After this private transaction was over, Bai Churan coughed, then took out the party who came to meet the Kamasutra sect, and reached out to Su Xiangxue. Then, "Please come in, ladies of the Kamasutra sect." Although all the major sects on the scene wanted to occupy this wise immortal mansion by themselves, the ancient city was won by the joint efforts of the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance. Moreover, Bai Churan was watching. In this cultivation world, it's necessary to have a heel roll like Evil Sect in order to maintain the Righteous Alliance's cognition closer to the righteous path in its overall thinking. Nearly 1,000 years ago, the war between righteous and the evil had not yet been carried out. When the evil sects were rampant, these 3 sects left corpses all along their way. Even the most gentle of them, Ghost Spirit Sect, there was no grave left in the place where they passed. The fact Bai Churan befriended Huangfu Feng, supported Su Xiangxue in the upper position, and established diplomatic relations with the old men of the Ghost Spirit Sect, had already limited the damage that the evil sects could cause to the greatest extent. Therefore, Bai Churan could not allow the power of the Righteous Alliance to grow uncontrollably, otherwise, the evil sects would be eliminated, and then the Righteous Alliance would inevitably start to rotten from the inside. This was due to the nature of human beings, even cultivators were no exception. So everyone waited for a few days, and when the farthest one Ghost Spirit Sect also brought the disciples to gather, the elders of all the sects sent the disciples into the immortal mansion. In the ancient city, the elders of the various sects performed their abilities, either controlling the flying sword or using a piece of clouds, to bring the disciples to the height of several miles on the sky. This was the closest distance they could approach the inverted mountain. Going forward, cultivators above the nascent soul stage would be attacked by the thunder summoned by the mansion, so the elders stopped here. The 5 sects of the Righteous Alliance grouped together, so did the 3 sects of the Evil Alliance. The sky was shining on the side of the Righteous Alliance and was overcast on the side of the Evil Alliance. The elders began to give their disciples one last notice. Bai Churan noticed that Zhu Yunzi, with a swollen nose and a swollen face, gave some talismans to Qing Danying, who was standing in front of him with her head high, and Liu Chengyin, who has cultivated for the longest time among the disciples in the nascent soul stage. It's probably mean to protect their lives. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Bai Churan also called Tang Ruowei over, and quietly gave her 3 jade slips. This is something that Mystery Academy has just developed based on the Earth Immortal Teleportation Array not long ago. Inside this, there is a small space, where 3 of my sword beams sealed inside. Bai Churan said, "If you encounter a danger that can't be solved, throw these 3 jade slips out. Remember, the attack range is 10 meters in radius with the point the jade slips landing as the center. My sword beam doesn't recognize friend or foe, so be careful when using it." Just after he instructed Tang Ruowei and let her go back to the team, Su Xiangxue brought Yu Maiqiao to find him again. The peerless beauty wearing a veil looked at Bai Churan up and down twice, and then pushed Yu Maiqiao forward and said to Bai Churan, "This is my apprentice." Bai Churan nodded. "I know. Okay." Su Xiangxue turned her head and said to Yu Maiqiao, If you meet him after entering, follow his instructions. What are you saying? Baichuran said seriously. I won't go in. How can I compete with juniors for opportunities? Su Xiangxue gave him a white look, and then said to Yu Maiqiao. It is inevitable that what you have encountered some illusions created in the cave. I will teach you a few ways to identify him. When people lived for a long time, they couldn't avoid talking too much. The elders of the sect have instructed the disciples for a long time and finally watched them fly toward the upside-down mountain with their magic tools. Along the way, the mansion's tribulation formation did not respond, and the disciples approached the top of the mountain unharmed. A few meters away from the top of the mountain, space suddenly appeared like ripples. The figures of the disciples disappeared into these ripples as if they had entered another world, and no one could be seen on the upside-down mountain. Seeing that the disciples entered the space of the cave mansion without incident, the elders of the sects present were all relieved. Everyone, let's pull up the barrier. After regaining his gaze, Zhu Yunzi dully suggested. Okay. Ji Lingyun looked unharmed, but he was gasping when he moved. This is the first time in my life that I agree with your bastard's proposal. I want to go back and lie down now. The other sect elders also nodded, and Baichuran said at this moment. Wait, I want to go in too. Oh. Su Xiangxue smiled and said. Who just said that he won't compete with the juniors for opportunities? The wind is too big, I can't hear you. Baichuran stretched out his voice, drew out his ears and replied pretentiously, and then said seriously. Do me a favor, everyone. Whether I can build the foundation in my life may depend on this one. Okay. Elder Shu of Mystery Academy leaned over and handed Baichuran a spike similar to the black prism held by the land immortal before. Then. Sword Patriarch, please carry this thing. This is the latest research result copied by Mystery Academy from the materials of the ancient city. It retains the original characteristics while preventing the invasion of souls. This thing is very difficult to make. We currently only have this one besides the prototype. Baichuran took it and said. Thank me for the kindness of the Dean Qiu Yuxuan, although I think the land immortal should not be able to invade my soul. After all, I don't even have a deity soul. The elders looked at each other, and then Li Pengfei of Jade Tower said again. Of course we have to help you, but Sword Patriarch, although your cultivation level is low, your strength is superb, will you really not trigger the thunder if you enter? Who cares? Baichuran waved. It's not that I haven't struck by lightning before. If I can build a foundation, let alone withstand a bit of thunder, even if there are hordes of immortals in front of me, I will go there. Great. Zhu Yunzi clapped his hands loudly. Then Uncle Ancestor, please depart. Don't say it if you can't say good things. Baichuran kicked him away, then looked around and jumped to Su Xiangxue's side. Lend me a foothold. What? Su Xiangxue sighed helplessly, took out the jade music instrument, pulled a string, and played it lightly. Hum. The melodious sound floated out, and the water vapor in the surrounding clouds was suddenly gathered and condensed into a 5-meter square thick ice platform, suspended in the clouds. Baichuran leaped lightly, jumped from the clouds of the surrounding cultivators to the ice platform, and then pushed slightly under his feet, and his figure suddenly raised. Boom! The ice platform was crushed into small ice crystals by him, while his own body flew high, flying towards the top of the hanging mountain in the sky. Others looked up at him and kept watching him, just like the previous disciple, causing a wave-like spatial fluctuation a few meters from the top of the mountain and entering another world. There is no thunder. After a while, Wei Chen Master Monk touched his head and couldn't help saying, it seems that this immortal mansion really recognizes that Sword Patriarch is in the Qi refining stage. I don't know whether he is happy or sad about that. It's so good, so good. Ji Lingyun and Huang Fu Feng also looked up at the sky. After seeing Baichuran's figure disappeared, Huang Fu Feng said to himself, it would be great if our evil alliance also had such a man with low cultivation level but combat power is out of the chart, don't you think? Miss Su, ghostly old man. After passing through the ripples in that space, Baichuran came to another world where the inverted mountain peak was located. The gravity suddenly reversed, and Baichuran, who was unable to fly in the void without a foothold, suddenly fell straight down. But he had prepared long ago and had adjusted his figure in mid-air. With a bang, he landed on the flat top of the mountain and looked up. There was a blue sky above his head, and he could no longer see the outside. "This is Y's immortal mansion." Baichuran looked around. No, maybe it should be said, the entrance of Y's immortal mansion. He figured that he should be at the top of the mountain that was hanging upside down. The top of this mountain was a platform with some vegetation growing everywhere, but no other creatures were seen. Baichuran walked to the edge of the platform and looked down. Outside the platform was a cliff formed by a steep slope close to 70 degrees. On the cliff, he could see some trees growing from the cracks in the rock, hanging on the cliff tenaciously. The lower part was shrouded in clouds and mist, and occasionally a glimpse of the energetic glow appeared, but he couldn't see the specific appearance. Seeing no other disciples around, Baichuran thought that since they came one step ahead and had already continued to explore, he decided to walk down from the edge of the platform. For Baichuran, walking on this nearly vertical cliff wall wasn't different from walking on the ground. Although he couldn't fly, as long as he has a foothold, he was definitely much more stable than other cultivators. He only walked a distance of about 25 feet down, then the whole person went deep into the clouds and mist, and a strange sense of spatial dislocation came. Baichuran walked for a few minutes under the condition of fog in all directions, and the mist gradually dissipating. HW was stunned to find that he had come to a wonderful cave. "I just walked clearly on the cliff." Baichuran admired. Land Immortal's spatial manipulation techniques are really dazzling. He looked around and saw that this cave had no way to come out. Behind him was a hard rock wall. Half of the cave's ground and the other half was a bottomless abyss. There was only one narrow road extending to another. On the side of the rock wall, there was a dark hole. Beside this passage, Baichuran saw a stone monument. When he walked in, blue light suddenly appeared on the stone tablet, forming several lines of text. "There are 8 great sufferings in life: birth, aging, sickness, death, association with the unbeloved, separation from the loved, not getting what is wanted, 5 clinging aggregates. Only those who jump out of the sea of suffering can become immortals." TSK, something from Saint Buddha sect's books. Baichuran said. "The Land Immortals have learned a lot." Before he finished speaking, the writing on the tablet changed again. "The first suffering, the suffering of birth." As soon as the words appeared, the cave violently vibrated, as if it was in the belly of a giant beast, and now, the giant beast's stomach was violently contracting and digesting. The rock wall behind Baichuran moved rumblingly and pressed against him. The ground that occupies half of the cave under his feet also began to collapse. Only the passage connecting the deep cave on the other side of the cave was still standing in place. There were various signs that showed that it wanted to force Baichuran to walk on this path. This kind of persecution was actually not that fatal to other cultivators, but for Baichuran, it just hit his sore spot. After all, without a foothold and he couldn't fly in the air, he would fall for sure. Even if the fall couldn't kill him, nobody knew what was under this abyss and how deep it was. If by any chance it fell into the void outside the boundary, that would be terribly unlucky. Okay. Seeing that his foothold was about to disappear, Baichuran reluctantly stepped onto the passage. "I want to see what tricks you are playing." On the other side, Tang Ruowei, who entered the entrance of Y's immortal mansion one step earlier than Baichuran, was also looking at the surroundings. Originally, when they came to the summit, the disciples of all the sects were still gathered together, but when the disciples of the various sects entered the clouds and mist under the mountain along the cliff, they were separated, and this also completely disrupted the previous arrangements of the various sect elders. The disciples of the various sects were currently not knowing where they are going. Tang Ruowei estimated that they should have been randomly disrupted and thrown into different spaces. Now, she could only go down on her own. Settling down, Tang Ruowei observed the surroundings and found that she was standing in an octagonal pavilion. The octagonal pavilion was floating in a night sky with only a stone tablet in the pavilion. She came to the stone tablet, and several lines of text flashed across the stone tablet exactly as Baichuran had seen, but immediately after that, the text that appeared on the stone tablet in Tang Ruowei's place turned into the first suffering, the suffering of not getting what is wanted. With the emergence of the writing on this stone tablet, a bridge suddenly came in the depths of the night sky, connecting it to the gap in the railing around the octagonal pavilion. At the same time, the octagonal pavilion also began to tremble, urging Tang Ruowei to go on the next path. In desperation, the girl had to walk on the bridge and head towards the dark night sky. Halfway through, she looked back and found that the octagonal pavilion had disappeared into the night sky. She wondered if it flew to other places, or collapsed and dissipated. No longer able to go back, Tang Ruowei continued forward and walked along the bridge to the bottom of a high platform. The platform was several tens of feet high, and Tang Ruowei, who was standing at her feet, could not see the situation clearly, and could only follow the white stone stairs all the way up. When she finally came to the top of the high platform, she found that on the top of it there was a square platform with an area of about 200 square meters. There was a brazier at the four corners of the platform. After sensing Tang Ruowei's arrival, the four braziers suddenly burned. The flame dissipated the surrounding darkness, and then, in front of Tang Ruowei, a familiar young girl appeared with her back facing Ruowei. The girl wore a goose yellow precious palace dress. The style and decoration made Tang Ruowei a little familiar. "What is this?" She cautiously approached the girl. At the distance of 5 meters, where her moves are the most effective, she asked. "Excuse me, who are you?" "Ha ha ha." The girl she asked gave a chuckle like a silver bell, and then she turned around and faced Tang Ruowei gracefully. "Are you asking me?" The girl's black hair was like a waterfall, her eyebrows were like a peach blossom, her eyelashes flapped slightly. She was clearly Tang Ruowei herself. The only difference between this girl and Tang Ruowei was that the pair of breasts on her chest was almost world-class boobs. With Tang Ruowei's 20 years of experience, she could tell at a glance that they were genuine and not padded. And when her gaze swept over, the girl put her hands under her chest, seeming to support her chest intentionally or unconsciously. After a dazzling tremor, her breathing stagnated. As the jealous flame ignited in her heart, Tang Ruowei felt that she might have some understanding of what the so-called not getting what is wanted really meant. Bai Churan was advancing forward in the darkness. After entering the hole on the rock wall, he felt that the road he was walking on became narrower and narrower. Originally, the width that two people could walk side by side, after walking for a while, has now become a width that even one person could barely pass. Moving forward, the width of the road shrank again and it had become a dark slit. At this point, Bai Churan felt that he could only move forward by walking sideways. He squeezed into this crack on his side and moved forward slowly. The rock walls on both sides squeezed towards him, seeming to have an unnatural sense of oppression as if they were trying to crush him. Perhaps people with weird fetishes would like this pressing feeling, but Bai Churan absolutely disliked it. In fact, if he were not worried about the impact of destroying this cave would affect the entire immortal mansion, he would already start to open the way out. After continuing to walk on this squeezing road for a while, a light finally appeared in front of Bai Churan, and he also saw the exit, which was simply a vertical crack in the stone. Except for people who have practiced a special technique, to squeeze out from there, even the cultivator would suffer great pain. Bai Churan sighed. "You made me do this." He released his chi and turned his body forcibly in this space with no leeway. His shoulders abruptly opened the stone walls on both sides, crushed the surrounding stone walls. Then he just faced the crack in the stone and stepped out. The stone walls on both sides were forcibly opened by him, and a spacious road that could accommodate one person was created. With a loud bang, a big human-shaped hole appeared at the exit of the crack in the stone wall. Bai Churan walked out from the inside, patted the dust falling on his shoulder, and looked forward. In front of him, there was a piece of scorched earth. The ground was cracked, and pillars of fire spew out from the cracks from time to time, and space was filled by high temperature, smoke, and flames. This fire was not an ordinary flame, at least the fire avoidance technique commonly used by cultivators to be directly immune to ordinary fires was completely unable to resist these flames. After he stepped on this scorched earth, some burning meteors would fall from the sky from time to time. The meteors with billowing flames fell to the ground, causing waves of strong earthquakes and magma eruption. Halfway through, the scenery suddenly changed again. The ground fire disappeared, the once scorched earth now was covered by frost and snow, and the surrounding temperature suddenly cooled down, as if directly entering the room with the lowest temperature air conditioner after walking all day under the big sun. Goose feathers and heavy snow flew in the sky, hail and ice crystals fell from time to time. Just like the flames before, these ice and snow were not ordinary things. Walking in this kind of snow, even cultivators would suffer intense frostbite. So that's it, is this the so-called the suffering of birth? Of course, no matter whether it was cold or hot, or the strong temperature difference caused by all this, it couldn't have any impact on Baichuran. Instead, he walked and looked at the surrounding scenery thoughtfully, as if he was jogging. Here is the pain of cold and hot winds blow on the body when a baby is born, so the previous passage must be a simulation of the pain of passing through a narrow birth call. Should the next one be the pain of being squeezed by giant hands? Continuing to walk a few miles, Baichuran saw the pair of the giant hand that he expected. A beast with long white hairs, who looked like some kind of ape, and had a pair of big hands, was standing in the middle of the road. Its height is about tens of feet. Looking from far away, it looked like a white hill. Seeing Baichuran, this giant ape roared in excitement, and while taking steps that could cause the earth to shake, it stretched out its big hand and tried to grab Baichuran. The giant hand covered Baichuran like a sky, but the next moment, the giant beast wailed in pain. Every inch of its arms was cracked, like a candy smashed by a hammer. From the broken wound, a huge amount of blue blood flowed out. Because the power it used to capture Baichuran was obviously more than the power that an ordinary chi refining cultivator could bear, Baichuran counterattacked without hesitation. "Don't touch me with the dirty hands you usually use to touch yourself, wicked animal." Baichuran frowned in disgust, then drew an iron sword from the storage bag. After the sword, he threw away the hilt without the blade, avoided the corpse of the giant beast that had been divided into two pieces, and then continued on the road. After the behemoth was killed by him again, the corpse fell to the ground for a moment, but it suddenly decomposed into light and dissipated into the air. Interesting, I thought it was some kind of monster beast native to this space, but I didn't expect it to be an artificial life form. Turning his head to look at the giant beast corpse that dissipated into a light spot, Baichuran continued to move forward, full of expectation in his heart. If Land Immortals has mastered so many magical secrets, maybe they could really have a cultivation method that corresponds to his weird physique, which could enable him to successfully build the foundation and truly step into the road of immortality. After passing through the 3 painful trials in the suffering of birth described in Buddhist classics, Baichuran finally saw the end of this road. Just a few miles ahead of him, a road stretched forward, leaving the snowy ground and entering a thick fog. But at the same time, Baichuran's ears also heard a cry for help. "Fellow Daoist! Fellow Daoist!" He looked in the direction where the sound came from and found that among a cluster of ice crystals beside the road, there was a cultivator who was frozen in these ice crystals, only his head was exposed. "Fellow Daoist, if we are destined to meet here, can you extend a helping hand?" Seeing Baichuran looking at him, this cultivator showed a longing look. "I was caught by that giant beast and frozen here. Fellow Daoist, you are brave enough to kill that giant beast. Can you rescue me? If I can come out, I will guarantee in the name of our White Dragon sect that I'll pay you back." White Dragon sect? That 2nd grade authentic sect in Yong province? While talking, Baichuran moved closer to the location of the ice crystal cluster. "The Righteous Alliance has already said you shouldn't come in privately, but you don't listen. This is your own fault. Wait, I will let you out." The trapped cultivator looked ashamed as Baichuran walked to the ice crystal cluster. His complexion suddenly changed. A blue light flew out of the ice crystal cluster under him, hit Baichuran's body. Baichuran stiffened on the spot. Upon seeing this, the cultivator of the White Dragon sect struck lightly and shattered the ice crystal cluster that had trapped him. Then he jumped out of it and walked to Baichuran. "How about this method?" The cultivator of the White Dragon sect said to Baichuran. "I have said that with this fishing method, 1 or 2 idiots can always be caught. Now that we have found the body for you, we have to find the body for other compatriots. Bait and switch. What a good idea." Baichuran nodded at him, and suddenly punched out, and when the cultivator had no time to react, he shattered his head. The headless corpse fell to the ground, and a gloomy light of the soul flew out from the corpse, but it was caught by Bichuran, and sent to the same place along with the former soul trapped by his incomparable consciousness, a jade pendant temporarily used as a soul prison. After putting away this jade pendant, Bichuran glanced at the headless corpse on the ground and whispered, "The White Dragon sect belong to the Evil Alliance. Improving your acting before laying a trap, you idiot." In a dark space in the deepest part of Y's immortal mansion, a rickety figure was sitting in the darkness. He was covered in a dark robe, his hair was sparse, his eye sockets were sunken, his cheeks were deeply sunken as if he was a skeleton covered by human skin. But in his eye sockets, a pair of black eyes were still burning and glowing. In front of him, there were countless small screens. The trials of various outsiders in each layer of space are displayed on these screens. At this time, the black-robed man was staring at a screen which showed Tang Ruowei, who was furiously using the techniques that Bichuran taught her to frantically beat the girl who was exactly like her. The girl created by the formation of the cave mansion had already been beaten into a bloody mess. At the same time, on another screen, Li Jinyao was carrying a pair of blades, chasing and killing a beautiful white-haired man, slashing his ass. After watching for a while, he withdrew his gaze. These two lucky little girls have basically passed the suffering of not getting what is wanted trial. Originally, what this trial tested was not the combat ability of the testees, but their mental toughness. Therefore, the life form which was created by the formation in this trial did not possess much combat ability. According to the general process, the suffering of not getting what is wanted trial would show to the testees what they wanted the most in their lives, and use various temptations. After allowing them to come into close contact with what they wanted the most, these things would disappear, let them taste the taste of losing the most precious thing, destroyed the calmness of the cultivators, and finally lure them into a deadly trap. The calm state of mind of a cultivator was almost closely related to the cultivation base, so if it's impaired, that would cause the cultivation level to regress or even lose their life. When normal people dealt with the thing they wanted the most, they usually treated it with the utmost care and sometimes regard it as more important than their own life. However, even the designer of this trial would not have thought that there would be people in this world when faced with something that they wanted the most, would attack it first. But for the black-robed people, it didn't matter. There were many people in this world, it's reasonable to have one or two cultivators who didn't play by the rules. The black-robed man put all his attention in another screen, on which Bichuran had wiped his hands on the headless corpse and walked into the fog. Unexpectedly, there will be such a powerful divergent in the future. The black-robed man's face showed a look of eagerness. If I can possess his physical body, then I. As if sensing what he was thinking now, besides the black-robed man, in a white jade-like skull's eye socket, two clusters of faint blue fire suddenly burned, a voice came from the darkness, and it sneered. Are you thinking of possessing his physical body? With your stupidity, that physical body is useless even if you have it. Humph. Hearing this voice, the black-robed man snorted coldly. His lips did not move, but the voice came from his body and asked, "Do you know his details?" Of course I know. I am the wise immortal who was granted great wisdom by heaven. The light inside the skull's eye was blinked. But I won't tell you. The crowned prince of the sacred dynasty, the dead should sleep in the coffin, especially you who are a runaway coward. Wise immortal. What a great name, but now you are just a dead bone, with only a strand of the soul remains. The black-robed man sneered. How do you think your fate is better than me? But I am different from you, crowned prince of the sacred dynasty. The deity soul in the skull dangling. I don't have any other desires, and I will not use magic techniques to seize other people's bodies. I am not like you, who are always thinking about the outside world but can only sit here day after day for tens of thousands of years. The phrase not getting what is wanted is more suitable for you than trials. The black-robed man did not speak, but a chilling murderous aura burst out of him, but when he felt the murderous aura, the skull still had no fear. You can't kill me. My soul has been blessed by heaven, and I'm unkillable. What can you do to frighten me? The black-robed man's chest rose and fell slightly. Obviously, he was very angry. But after a while, he recovered his calm. Yes, I can't kill you. The black-robed man's voice was full of sullen anger. But after I get the body, I'll have many ways to deal with you. Then, I will make you experience a fate worse than death. Dash. The words were divided into two ends. On the other side, Baichuran, who was passing through the dense fog, suddenly found himself back on the cliff of that mountain. Looking back, there was a cloud of mist between the top of the mountain and himself, and he had already crossed a long distance before he knew it and came to the lower cliff. Below him were still clouds and mists. Presumably after entering the clouds, there would be another kind of trial. Overcome the 8 great sufferings of life, get out of the cycle of reincarnation, and step on the path of immortality. This means that I have to go through the 8 great sufferings before I can enter the real wise immortal mansion, right? Baichuran looked at the clouds and mist below, then walked on the almost vertical cliff, and continued to walk down a cloud of mist. Anyway, he was brave and bold. Whether he could enter the real wise immortal mansion after experiencing the 8 great sufferings, he has to make a breakthrough first. Passing through the clouds and mist again, there was another familiar sense of spatial dislocation. Baichuran simply started to figure out the spatial transmission mechanism in this cloud and mist. Just when he felt that he was about to touch a doorway, the clouds and mist dissipated and he again arrived at a new space. Different from the first space, this time, he came to an open-air space. The left and right sides are still bottomless abysses. A stone path that can only be passed by one person extends into the distance, but the sky has gone from black. The lacquered rock wall turned into a yellow and dim sky like the setting sun. There seems to be a prohibition above the passage, which was used to suppress the cultivators who could fly with swords so that they could only move on this single-plank bridge with their feet. The sky full of dim light gave people an illusion of aging. Baichuran looked left and right and found a stone monument exactly the same as before on a floating stone platform beside the passage, which read, "No matter you are rich or poor, your hair will eventually go white." After a while, the inscription changed again and became 6 characters. The second suffering, the suffering of aging. Aging. Baichuran blinked, he was a little curious. How does this immortal mansion let cultivators experience the suffering of aging? Could it be that it has the ability to manipulate time? The lifespan of a cultivator was very long. From the very beginning, the world of cultivation has never lacked the method of prolonging one's life, and even the fact of cultivation itself was, to a large extent, a method created by mankind to get rid of the limitation of life. And those who can come to this cave were definitely cultivators, so in this trial, if you wanted them to experience the feeling of declining mortals, even if you had the ability to manipulate time, removing several decades still wouldn't be enough. Baichuran was quite curious about how this trial would show the so-called suffering of aging to the cultivator. He stepped forward and walked along this straight narrow road. After walking for a while, the yellow sky seemed to be closer to the ground, and it seemed more and more depressed. At this time, Baichuran suddenly heard a scream. Baichuran felt excited and hurried over, and then he saw that on the narrow road a few miles ahead of him, several cultivators who looked like loose cultivators were attacked from the dim sky. A dense rain of yellow beams of light sprinkled from the sky and fell near these cultivators. Baichuran saw that once they were swept by these yellow lights, the vitality of those cultivators would suddenly weaken. Under the influence of, their appearance hasn't changed much, but their hair and beards were slowly turning white as if the end of their lives were coming. After they were hit by the yellow light, they seemed to suddenly become weak, and their hands and feet movements became much slower. As for the people who have been hit by these yellow lights multiple times, this negative state seemed to be superimposed, making their actions more sluggish and their faces even older. Baichuran even saw that after being hit many times, a loose cultivator showed wrinkles and age spots that were rarely seen on the face of a cultivator. In astonishment, Baichuran suddenly had countless yellow lights falling on his head. He tossed around this road, avoiding countless yellow lights, and advancing fast, but because the few loose cultivators occupied the road, Baichuran was finally helplessly rubbed by a yellow light in his palm. What? After being hit by the yellow light, Baichuran looked at his palm in surprise, because he felt as if he hadn't reacted at all. Seeing that he was hit, several loose cultivators also turned around, and one of them asked in an intermittent weak voice, "Why are you okay? You are obviously just a chi refining stage. How the hell do I know? Baichuran just wanted to say this, but the next moment, countless yellow lights fell on his head, but after the yellow lights fell into his body, he was still unharmed, and there was no sign of weakening. Nothing happened. After more yellow light enters his body, Baichuran also feels its nature. This was not the kind of time manipulation ability as he thought, but seemed to be a mysterious supernatural power that could directly strip the lifespan from other people's bodies. The lifespan was a very mysterious thing, but it did exist. For the cultivators who have not ascended to immortals, as well as the mortal, the lifespan of each life would be registered in the Book of Life and Death in the underworld. It's like a secret number that fate assigned to everyone. And this kind of magical power of yellow light seems to be able to cut down the lifespan of a living body, at least temporarily. And this trial, through this special magical power, let people who came here feel the pain of physical aging and the end of life. Then the problem was coming. As a chi refining stage that has lived for more than 3,000 years, Baichuran's lifespan has already come to an end long ago. Over the past 3,000 years, although he has relied on longevity pill to prolong his life, he was living in a state of approaching deadlines, and from time to time he has to deal face-to-face with the soul-takers who came to capture. This kind of near-death state, for him, was no different from the usual state. I seem to understand why I am okay. Baichuran looked at his palm and muttered. Why? Several loose cultivators asked weakly. Even if I tell you, you can't copy my method. Baichuran looked at the sky. This trial doesn't seem to be fatal. Once I find out the details of this mansion, I will come back to rescue you. As for now, work hard, and treat it as a punishment for you to enter this cave without permission. After finishing speaking, he passed them and continued to move forward in the eyes of these loose cultivators who were anxious, angry, and pleading. Those yellow lights fell on his head and body like rain, but Baichuran was like a traveler crossing in the wind, his back remained motionless, drifting away in the eyes of the loose cultivators. What is going on? In the dark space, the black-robed man opened his eyes wide, revealing bloodshot irises. He looked at Baichuran on the screen and said in disbelief, "Aging magical powers have no effect on him. How can this be possible? He is not an immortal." If Baichuran was quick and could avoid all the yellow light in a passage that only one person could pass through, that's fine, but someone who was completely unaffected by the yellow light, that was beyond his comprehension. Maybe even the land immortals who designed the trial never thought that this would happen. Beside him, the skull stared at Baichuran on the screen, but the light in his eye socket swayed quietly as if he was thinking. That's it, so he lived so long by this method. The light in the skull's eyes flickered, and there was a voice coming out of it. No wonder the magical powers of aging have no effect on him. Do you know what's going on? Hearing the skull talking to himself, the black-robed man raised it in front of him with magical powers and asked, "Tell me quickly." "Yeah, I do know." The voice of the skull sounded very flat. "But I just won't fucking tell you." Seeing that the black-robed man's consciousness fluctuates violently, the skull quickly added a mockery. "I advise you to give up. It seems that the first 4 sufferings of the 8 great sufferings are unlikely to have any impact on him. If you want to possess him, you can only hope that the association with the unbeloved, separation from the loved, not getting what is wanted, or 5 clinging aggregates to be able to drill a gap in his mental defense. Anyway, I think it's quite highly unlikely." Humph. The black-robed man threw the skull aside and said coldly, "It's still unknown who's going to die.